Afternoon to you all. It's 2:48 p.m. and I'm joined by Kuva99. Kuva, how are you feeling after the 90 minutes that has just occurred at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium?
Super relieved and quite happy, to be honest. Yep, got away with another one, but we did do it. The results keep happening.
Mm-hmm. What did you? I think from the WhatsApp groups that I'm in, people talk to me on YouTube. I think it is one of relief, is the feeling that I'm getting from most people. What did you make? I think that we got it wrong yesterday. I mean, I think there was reports that Moutinho wouldn't play at all. So we were expecting a 4-2-3-1 from Wolves. Were you surprised when they lined up with Moutinho, Neves and Nunes as a free?
Well, if they're all fit for them, they've got to play, haven't they? They're all great players. Certainly worked as well, didn't it? First half, we were just completely outplayed by a far superior team. Yeah. No doubt about it. You could, no matter how much we love our team, we've got to say we were second best all over the pitch there. I'd argue even only Perisic looked like he was in the right place. Yeah. And he didn't have a great first half. He did okay. Everybody else was pretty poor.
Yeah, well, what we'll do is we'll do some player ratings in a little bit. I mean, the Wolves team, I think it was almost, we were wrong about the lineup, but I think what we both said yesterday was we will get the win, but Wolves will probably have a fair bit of the football, play well, but not have any cutting edge. And I think we saw that, right? It was, if they'd had a Kane up front, it's a very different scoreline, right? But luckily for us, they didn't. And look, we scraped the 1-0. Would you say that it was deserved? Or if that had finished 1-1, could we have had any complaints?
Game of two halves, really, wasn't it? I think if it finished 1-1, you'd say they probably deserved something from the game. But we were so improved in the second half. The result sort of went with the momentum of the teams. Yeah. They might have had a couple of chances still second half, but you kind of felt we did enough to get something, provided we'd got through to half time unscathed, which we did. I suppose, though, 1-1 would have been a fair result too. I'll take the 1-0, though, all day long.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Look, clean sheet, 1-0, another goal from a set piece. We're really struggling to create anything. I mean, I don't feel I'm being harsh. If I look at the Chelsea game and I look at the game today, we're not creating chances and scoring from those created chances. It's coming from a snapshot from Højbjerg and then two corners versus Chelsea and Wolves. Is that a worry, or is that just something that will line itself out over the next few games?
I happen to think it's the other teams have been defending pretty well, to be honest. No amount of times I saw plays today where last season the cutback, it went to a player and we slapped it in. But this, against Wolves today and against Chelsea, we make the cut back from the byline and somebody just stretches a leg out enough to get a toe on the end of it and it gets away from our player. And there's these tiny little differences that make completely change the result of a game. I think it'll settle down over the course of time. We'll hit our rhythm at some point during the season. But the fact is, unbeaten while not doing well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't argue.
I mean, look, I think
I'd be more concerned if we weren't getting into those positions where we are making that, the sort of the little attacking ball before the assist, as it were.
Absolutely.
But we have to grow into them. Two very first poor halves in a row.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't even great against Southampton, was it?
No. It's look. I mean, first and foremost, what I would say is, I couldn't get over there today. I had to give my tickets away. And I'll be honest, sitting here watching the first half, I wasn't unhappy that I wasn't there. If I'm honest, it was. Look, I'll be really honest, and look, you know me. I'm going to say what I think anyway. I'm not going to please people. I sat there and thought to myself, I've been told, give Conte a pre-season. And we've had this great window. You're going to see a different team. I don't really see what's different other than the fact that, yes, we are resilient, but the actual football, Kuva, it's not good. Like, it's, okay, we get the ball to Kuva and Kane and, to Kulu. maybe you. We get the ball to Kulusevski, get it to Kane, get it to Richarlison at times, and we look exciting. But the actual football through the middle of the park, and it's not anything to write home about, is it? This kind of Conte ball, or am I being harsh?
No, I think you're spot on. What strikes me is in all of three of these games, the first half, our movement has been terrible. You look at the likes of Bentancur, Højbjerg, get their foot on the ball. One, they don't have much time because they're being pressed. Secondly, it's like our forwards are way too easily marked out of the game. There's no real sort of gut-busting run to get into position. And we've got because there's no number 10 or no natural creative spark up there midfield-wise, other than Kane dropping deep, then there's nobody coming to meet the ball, making themselves available for that pass. It's showing. So we're easy to mark out of the game. It's only when we significantly up the tempo in the second half that we get around this problem, because then the ball played before the defender can sort of get onto our forwards like a limpet sort of thing. It works so much better when we play at a faster pace. It showed today again. It forces us up the pitch more as well. Getting the ball out early, getting it out with control, getting out to feet, moving quickly. And I think when it really comes to a front when Richarlison comes on, then you get that aggressive running as well up front.
You do.
He was just making himself available for everything. I think it's just a question of time before he starts banging some goals in. That's the only thing that's been lacking, really. He hasn't had the quality finish at the end of some of his hard work.
No, absolutely. Just quickly, first of all, there's 78 of you already in the chat. Welcome to all of you. Please put your thoughts in the chat. I might open it up to let people on a little bit later. We will be, Kuva and I will be going through in a minute what our player ratings will be for each player. We'll be discussing what's happened to Heung-min Son. Sorry, I'm going to say it. He's been absolutely dreadful at the beginning of this season. We're going to be talking about whether or not Richarlison deserves to start the next game. We'll talk about why Bissouma is not getting in this midfield. How Jermaine Jenas had the audacity to give Højbjerg man of the match. We'll be talking about all these sorts of things. Was Sanchez any good in replace of Romero? Did Laurice have anything to do? We'll talk about all of this stuff in a minute. Kuva, before we start going into the individual players, was it a case again in the first half of 2 Spurs midfielders against 3 Wolves midfielders and just being overrun? I felt like the number of times they managed to play pretty little patterns around us and they were off in the first half. I just felt again Bentancur and Højbjerg were anonymous, especially in the first half, anonymous. What do you make of that?
Again, I think that's down to the really slow tempo we were taking. The ball was not getting to people quickly enough. So it's easy to close somebody down if you know it's going to take up 2 seconds for them to release the ball. Because the movement was bad, it's easy. You could almost play it like on a tactics sheet, the way Wolves were playing it. You just know where our players are going to be, put a man on each one. I think having the extra number would definitely help because that Wolves midfield has got quality in it.
Yeah,
all 3 of those players look really good to me.
I thought Nunes showed some lovely touches.
Yeah.
And at what, 40?
Nearly, something like that. And that the flicked header he nearly got when Davis couldn't keep up with him. I thought, if that had gone in, it would have sort of capped his performance, really.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I think for me, Kuva, I thought all game, though, Ruben Neves.
Yeah.
When I watch that man play football, that is the man, I think, that's who you want in for Spurs, sitting in the middle, giving it to him from the centre-backs and let him pick out the wingers. So pick out the wing-backs.
And stick a Bissouma alongside him.
Right.
That would be talking. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk. We'll go into the player rates in a minute. I just want to talk about. So, in all this, as you can imagine, I'm in multiple football and Spurs WhatsApp groups. It's just my phone during match days up, but I just can't keep up while watching. And everyone was saying, "Oh my God, get Højbjerg off. He is shit. Misplacing passes, fouling everywhere, not releasing the ball quick enough." And I couldn't believe it when Jermaine Jenas said, "Højbjerg, man of the match." What did you make of that? Am I losing my mind as I'm getting older?
I I thought it's difficult to really pick out a man of the match for us. Everybody was so poor in that first half, bar Perisic, who was okay, that anybody that improved in the second half, you think they've probably got to be a contender, because I don't think it was one of those days when anybody ranked a sort of 8 out of 10 performance. A couple on the Wolves team, maybe. Neves, you could say, probably did. Nunes maybe as well. But for us, it was just that dragging ourselves out of the shit we'd got ourselves into by half time. Luckily staying 0-0. So I can see why you might pick him, but no, it doesn't ring true to me. He just had such a shocker in the first half. I don't think playing fairly well in the second half is enough to make up for it. However, he was much improved second half. I'll give him that. He was a lot more. They're all a lot more tempo and urgency.
I thought it was improved, but for me, I would have definitely gone with Kulusevski or Perisic as a man of the match. I mean, look, Kulusevski for me, first half again, I was thinking, hang on, again, he's been nullified, but second half managed to find a lot of space. He's running at them. And I like Kulusevski because he runs at people direct. And as I said before, I feel like the ball is glued to his feet. He can go, he can cut inside and still they know what he's going to do. They still can't stop him. And I just feel like he's a threat. Whereas I thought the other side, and we're going to the player ratings, as I said, in a few minutes, but I thought the other side, I thought Heung-min Son was absolutely dreadful yet again. And I know you're not allowed to say
his first touch, isn't it?
It's not good enough.
When he's on form, his first touch is almost genius level. It's perfectly brings the ball down into his stride, bang, it's away. This season so far, it's not quite there, is it? He'll get his foot to it, but then he's not in the right shape to get the shot away quickly. He gets closed down quickly, or he's gone a little bit too wide. It's not happening for him yet. I'm not too worried, though. He's just off form. It doesn't mean he's suddenly become a bad player, does it? But I think we've got to be allowed to say he's had some shockers by his standards.
But isn't that the funny thing, Coover? Is if you sit here like already, someone's messaged already in the group in the chat saying, "Well, clearly, Savva, you should manage the next game." And it's like, well, hang on, what have I actually said? Do you know what I mean? It's like, look, players like Kane, players like Son, we're allowed to say if they're not in form or if they're playing bad, there is nothing wrong as a football fan to say they're not playing well. Now, I don't want to talk about it yet. We are going to the player ratings now, but we will be talking afterwards as to whether or not Son should come out the next game and Richarlison goes in. And we'll talk about it. But otherwise, why buy a £60 million forward if he can't get in front of players not playing well? So, Kuva, let's start with, let's look at player ratings. First of all, when we lined up, what did you make of our 11? It was Sanchez in for the suspended Romero. For the injured Romero, sorry. I don't know why I said suspended. And it was Perisic in for Sessegnon. Were you expecting to see Longley or Basuma or Richarlison start, or was that the 11 you were expecting?
That was pretty much the 11 I was expecting. Again, the only doubt would have been Perisic, because I think with Perisic, Basuma, Longley, the question was always going to be about fitness levels, if they were up to it or not. Perhaps looking at Perisic coming off holding his calf a bit, wasn't he? That's a bit of a worry. Is that due to a bit of muscle fatigue because he's not at that level of fitness yet? It could be. Hopefully it's as simple as that, bit of cramp or something. But I think that's the only reason the likes of Basuma and Longley aren't in the side at the moment, is due to that catch, because they missed out on the pre-season so much. Mm-hmm. So
just quickly, sorry, just before you carry on, sorry, Emil, I didn't say he was the creative midfielder. What I said is he's the guy that keeps the game running. If you watched everything Wolves did, went into Neves. Neves was the one on the turn that sprayed it right, sprayed it left, played through the channels. I never said he was the number 10. So I didn't say he was the creative midfielder, but he is a bloke that runs a game and keeps hold of possession.
Kind of like Michael Carrick, really, isn't it? It's
right.
He doesn't grab the headlines, but he keeps the team ticking over. It's really important. The metronome of the team.
Yeah. Sorry, mate. I butted in there. Apologies.
Oh yeah, I've forgotten what we're talking about now. What was it?
Just the 11 and whether or not you'd expected to see anything different.
No. I think I think so. It was down to fitness decisions. Otherwise, I mean, I don't think any of us wasn't really having kittens when we looked at that defence. What were we? Romero out of it, Sanchez coming in, and it's like, well, that's the defence from last season all of a sudden, and it wasn't good at times. But
no, it wasn't. It worried
they did
me.
okay. They did okay, ish. The trouble is they've always got mistakes in them, and we got away with it this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what, Kuva, I think I might pack in the channel. If I say Kulusevski is great, I'll get told it's wrong. If I say Son shit, I'm told it's wrong. If we, you can't say anything, can you? At the end of the day, sorry, if anyone, I thought Kulusevski was excellent in that second half. I thought he was really, really good. So, look, let's go through.
And I suppose you could even it out and just say, well, in the first half, he was really quite poor as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
Mate, from the first half, Kuva, from the first half, I'm not giving anyone man of the match. I thought they were all poor the first half. I'm just saying from when we got going the second half, Perisic for me was a menace. Another assist. We saw him skip past his fullback time after time. And again, that we'll talk about Sessegnon in a minute, but the levels that he is over is amazing. Let's go through it.
Perisic, didn't he both win the corner and get the assist for the flick on?
Yes.
Yeah. That's quite an impact on the team, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, when you watch Perisic, or Burnley have taken the lead at Blackpool, just so you know, I've got Sky Sports News in the background. So if I shout out random scores, I shout out random scores. That's what's going to happen. I can't help it, I'm afraid.
Football Tourette's.
Yeah, football Tourette's, yeah. Oh, my God, Swindon are 1-0 up at Rochdale. Yeah. Talk to me about Hugo Laurice. How did Hugo play today? Did he have a lot to do? Was he involved?
He didn't have an awful lot to do, did he? The times where he looked vulnerable, we got flat-footed on that the header from Nunez when he flicked it on. Obviously difficult to read there. He probably he got caught out a little bit there. Other than that, he was competent with everything. And what I did like to see was near the end of the game when you could hear him really verbally, even on the TV, him shouting keeper's ball. I want to hear more of that from him. I think that's a really important part of the game. It's, I think perhaps perhaps that is him stepping up as captain and thinking, I need to be more verbal this time because the defence is like a little bit weakened. I'll just keep them on their toes. So I don't think he had an awful lot to do otherwise, really, did he?
No, I think a difficult. He just did what he needed to solidly. By the way, Aston Villa are 1-0 up at Crystal Palace. Ollie Watkins.
Dream team, get in there.
Your dream team. Perisic is in my dream team. So
Perisic is in mine as well. I'm doing well so far.
Do you know what? Again, look. Do you know why I never win dream teams, Kuva? I mean, probably because like 4 million people play it. But I always forget, like I did yesterday.
Yeah.
To change my team. So this week I've got Haaland as captain again. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. And Gabriel Jesus is my assistant captain. And I just didn't change it. Jan Tran, we will come to this when we talk about Son in the player ratings. But again, if people are thinking that Son isn't underperforming, that is pure bias. He has looked really, really off it. We can blame the defence. We can blame the midfield. But I'm talking about his runs, him with the ball, his control. No one else is him.
I think with Son, since the comment was there, with Son, for me, it's we are comparing him to what we expect from him.
Yep.
So, of course, Sonny, we expect him to be high quality at all times. So he had today, I'd call a pretty bang average game. He wasn't disastrously bad, but the stuff you usually expect him to excel at, he just wasn't this time. Same against Chelsea and Southampton. For him, he's off form, but he's doing okay. We're scoring goals, we're winning, still undefeated. It's not a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key thing is you're allowed to say a player hasn't played well, without saying, "Oh my God, I hate that player." Right? It's okay to say really like him as a player. He's just not in form. Palace have equalised through Wilf Zaha, if anyone's got him in their team. And I believe I've just seen Fulham have gone 1-0 up at home to Brentford. Bobby Cordova-Reid. Good start for Fulham so far. Good start for them. 2 draws and now they're winning today. Crystal Palace. Yeah, Fulham 1, Brentford 0. D Cordova-Reid. Okay, let's go to
Fulham down as my dark horse this season. Finished top 10.
Was it you or Iggy who said that Mitrovic was going to get World Player of the Year?
Iggy rated Mitrovic, so I've been bigging him up for comedy value, but he's doing well.
By the way, anyone in the comments, no one said that Mitrovic was going to get World Player of the Year. Talk to me about Emerson Royal today. What did you make of Emerson Royal?
Made some important defensive contributions, but again, when he goes forward, it's pretty poor, isn't it? He's just not a very talented player. Full of energy, full of aggression, and he offers something at least at the back there. But I don't know. I think that's the for me the biggest letdown of the transfer windows. We haven't got a right wing back to replace him. I just don't see him good enough. Today, though, overall he did okay. Certainly didn't let himself down.
Yeah, I thought in the first half he made some good tackles. Actually, I thought he got himself some good places. What I feel with him is he is the ultimate at I'll win the ball. Now I've got the ball. I'm not really sure what I'm meant to do with the football.
Reminds me of a certain Musa Sissoko for some reason.
Right. Yeah, the right wing back version. I mean, he didn't play badly. I did feel there was a lot of times where he was down that right wing and you're thinking, beat your man or cross the ball. But the safe option was always, where's Kulu? That's not, I'm not saying that's bad, Kuva, right? I'm not saying that's bad because Kulusevski is a wonderful player. But I just felt like there was a bit more. But again, it wasn't his best. It wasn't his worst. He definitely wasn't an issue for me today. And he does give his all. What I will say is he's not for me personally as a footballer, but he does give his all. I've got to give him that, right?
Yeah, his attitude seems spot on, doesn't it?
It does.
Certainly he's got Conte's trust at the moment, so we're going to have to back him as much as we can, even through gritted teeth. Same as you, though. He's not a player I rate and never will. I prefer players to have proper footballing ability. Technically good and proficient at what their role's supposed to be. He kind of does half of the role, but when part of that role is to go forward and add to the attack and he can't, I just can't give him like these great ratings. I mean, he did okay. Yeah.
He'll always be a 6 for me. And when he plays well, it's almost a 7 because he plays well, but not really does anything. But look, it wasn't a bad game from him. Let's move inside then to the right-sided centre-back. Sanchez stepping in for Christian Romero. I don't know about you, but I do know about you because we talked about this off stage. So I do know. I thought the first 20 minutes, I thought he actually started quite well. I thought he was quite composed. I thought he did his job well. Then you started to see the mistakes, people getting in behind him, the ball watching. Now, I'd love to say, Kuva, that this was because he's not played a lot of football lately, but this is what I've seen from him for about 6 years now. So it's like it doesn't feel that this is rustiness. It feels that this is his game. What did you make of it?
Typical Sanchez, wasn't it? So much good work he does. The way he started off, brilliant sliding block early on in the game. Forgotten who it was from now. Somebody went through on the right-hand side of our penalty area. He came across, dealt with it very nicely. And then, like you said, it seems like to be lack of concentration. There's something just not right about him. He's always got mistakes in there. Sometimes it's just simple positioning things you'd expect better from a centre-half from. For me, he's only played really well in one season, and that's when he played in between Toby and Jan. And that's because they are just sheer quality. So he's able to flourish under those conditions. Yeah. Since then, when you look at him and you expect him in 1v1 encounters to come off really well because he's got the physique, he's got the pace, he's got the height as well. But it just doesn't seem to be in the right place too often. And positioning is crucial for a central defender.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't think it
was ruined the performance. He could have had a good performance today and just let himself down, didn't he?
He did. And Burnley are 2-0, if anyone cares. But I always feel like Burnley is still in the Premier League when I see their name pop up. By the way, just quickly, completely off topic. My friend's a Burnley fan. He said to me, he went, Savva, honestly, he said, we've gone from prime Allardyce. He went, we're playing like Brazil. I said, is this just because now you've attempted to put the ball on that green stuff and play rather than lump it forward to wood?
In a lower division.
Yeah. But fair play to them. Lots of comments in the chat. Listen, please, there are 130 of you. Wasn't sure how many people would be about on a Saturday afternoon. 130 of you. Please smash that like button. And as always, if you did want to put in a super chat, then that money does go to charity. So please do that and definitely smash that like button. Kuva, lots of people in the chat. It all feels to be that when we're talking about any player, and before we move on to Eric Dyer, a lot of people are going, oh, so-and-so, poor first half, good second half. Poor first half, good. It seems very much that is the trend at the moment with Tottenham, that players can't seem to, I don't know if it's motivated or fitness or what, but I'm certainly not seeing this fit team that everyone was saying we were going to see from pre-season. I feel like we look sluggish. What do you think?
It's so difficult to put your finger on it, really, isn't it? Because clearly we do have a fit team because we last to the end of the 90 minutes and get stronger and stronger as games go on. Why do we start off so slow? It can't be team preparation because it happens under different managers. What is it? Is it too comfy, too luxurious at the ground? So we start off in this too relaxed mood. Perhaps we need the sort of wooden bench and the ghetto blaster going, Wimbledon style from
right. Yeah.
Get people going. Think that you're going to get to work. Have your luxuries after the game, not before it. Is that it?
I don't know, players. It does feel, doesn't it, that it's almost like now we're going, as Spurs fans, we're all going, don't worry, Conte will have a chat with them at half time. And then we come out with this tempo, and that's fine. I think that's fine to a point. But the problem is there are going to be games where that's not fine because you find yourself 2-0 down and you're now dragging yourself back into a game rather than you're 0-0 and, okay, we've had a let-off, let's go again. I'm just concerned that we don't ever seem to start a game well under Conte.
It wasn't just Conte, though, was it? The amount of times we started off slowly is... I mean, it was like that with Mourinho quite often as well, wasn't it?
Oh, for sure. My point was, though, that I thought that would change. Like, I thought that, when you see how we played second half, not that the football was amazing second half, but the tempo was much better, and we kept getting out wide more. I really thought that we would start home to Wolves, go and make a statement. Do you know what I mean? Go and get 2 early goals, put the game to bed. We just don't seem to. But
that's my solution anyway. Wooden benches into the dressing room, sawdust on the floor, and start a punch up before the game.
Absolutely. Sorry, get them all in there, have a big punch up, and let's go. Just quickly, I think Fulham have just had another goal disallowed. There have been 2 up against Brentford. Talk to me about Eric Dyer today. What did you make of Eric Dyer's performance?
So solid for a lot of the game. And then just a few things start creeping. It's much the same as Sanchez, wasn't it? A few things just creep in, lack of concentration at times, getting out of position at times. He did okay, though. It wasn't the sort of really worrying performance as I thought we might get because, without Romero alongside, does it affect Dyer as long as, like it does the other way round when Dyer's out of the team and then the defence falls apart? I just don't. I don't get it. I just don't think he's good enough in the long run, but he did okay today. I mean, he wasn't a sort of calamitous performance by any means. Did well for large periods of it. Dealt with most things, but again, there's always those little moments where he switches off, out of position a bit at times. You're never quite sure on him.
Just quickly, I'm going to star this comment. When we get to Son, I'm going to talk about this. Because Bill Mackwell, his heart is hurting reading these comments. So we will hopefully not really, but we'll we'll come back to this. I think with Eric Dyer, I think so many games you feel like, okay, he's solid. He's solid. Then at the end, just a few things where he was caught ball watching again. When he went for that header and mistimed it and they get him behind. And you just think they're the little things for me which stop me thinking that he's at that level that we need to play.
Exactly. Yeah.
Centre. Don't get me wrong. I think if Dyer was one of your 5 centre-backs, I've got no problem. But as the main man, I'm not so sure. I think Champions League teams will pull this man apart. But we'll see. Ben Davies, left centre-back. What did you make of Ben Davies?
Pretty much solid sort of Ben Davies type performance again. Again, it showed where he is weak. The header against Nunes, wasn't it, when he was covering the covering man, lost that convincingly. He was well out jumped on that one. So he doesn't really offer that too well, the aerial dominance as a centre back.
Yeah.
So that leaves his groundwork, and he's pretty much okay for most of it. He's always going to be slow. You can't change that in him. But generally, I thought his positioning was okay. He did all right. I mean, nobody, especially that first half, nobody was really excelling. I mean, I don't know. It's your sort of 5/6 out of 10 sort of performance for me.
I think you summed it up brilliantly in your first sentence. It was a typical Ben Davies performance. Nothing amazing, nothing dreadful. What you would say is, there was a few times where they got down the channels, but I never worried too much because I just looked at, and as good as I feel that their team is, technically very good, some lovely football, some nice one-touch, those kind of push and go passes between the midfield three and the front three. But I never felt that there was anyone that could really finish. And I do feel if Wolves had a proper finisher, like a 20-goal a season man, I truly believe that a Europa League place would be well within their grasps. I think they're a good...
Even somebody like a Danny Ings, somebody like that, just somebody who's used to banging goals in regular basis, would have made a difference today as well. Yeah, just realised now one of the comments saying as well, we're supposed to be doing player ratings, aren't we?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I just gave Davis a 5 or a 6, so 5.5 for
me. Thanks, Bob Spur, who was in the chat. Big up, Bob, for telling us about your prolonged poo while at work, so you could watch more of the game. A lovely image all round, Kuva, that one, right?
It is, and quite fitting for some of the first half performances.
Absolutely, and Fulham have gone 2-0 up. It's funny when you watch Soccer Saturday and there's no sound. I could just see Paul Merson getting all animated. Fulham 2, Brentford 0. So it's a good start from Fulham.
I need Brentford to come back because I've got Ivan Toney in my dream team as well.
Fulham, I don't think they're that bad a footballing team either. It's going to be a strange old season, this one, I think. Let's go over to
those sort of teams. It's the depth of the squad that's going to decide it, isn't it?
Exactly. Let's see. Ben Saleh Youssef, while we're talking about these players, I said, Savva, did you see how much possession Dyer and Davies cost us this game? At some point, they were just throwing the ball. Look, Ben Saleh Youssef, I feel like this is what I expect. This isn't a new thing, right? Davies and Dyer will do a job at the back, but their distribution, their passing is not of a top quality defender. So I don't expect them to win it, give it, go. And that is who they are. Let's talk about Ivan Perisic. I was so happy, Kuva, so happy to see this guy starting instead of Sessegnon. Yeah. And all I'm going to say at this point is, in my opinion, watching Perisic absolutely baffles me how anyone can ever ask for Ryan Sessegnon to start another game in that position. He is head and shoulders above, isn't he?
Yeah, the first half, like we said, we were totally outplayed, utterly outclassed all over the pitch. He was the only player on our side who I thought looked in the right place playing against Wolves when they're playing like that. He was the only one that looked competent and comfortable on the ball. Everybody else was either panicked or didn't have the composure when put under pressure, couldn't find the passes, lack of movement. Perisic was at least doing a pretty steady job there. And he upped his game in the second half as well, quite considerably. I mean, ended up him being integral in us getting the win, didn't it? So,
and he digs a cross out from nowhere, doesn't he? Like he's got this wonderful ability to be standing still nick it past his fullback, and just dink a lovely ball into the box. And that for me, Kuva, that's what a wing back should be. That's what wing backs do.
Do you remember Leicester used to have a player, I think it was Steve Guppy? Guppy. All he did was just make half a yard of space and swing the ball into the box. That was it. And he was bloody good at it. It made him so effective for their team.
Would you like a fun fact that's not fun?
Yeah, go on.
I watched Steve Guppy's debut for England live at the Stadium of Light against Belgium.
Nice.
Not fun at all, was it? Not a fun fact. No. Anyway, yes, but Steve Guppy, he gets the ball over, right? And that's what you want from your wide men, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an integral part of the wing-backs game. That's why Emerson is not good enough. Doesn't matter how well Emerson defends. If he can't do that, he's not fulfilling the wing-back role.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is the thing I keep hearing a lot about. Is it Emerson? I feel sorry for him because he's a right back, not a right wing back. But if that's the case, then don't play him right wing back, right? You can't have it both ways. So all in all, the back five, first half, I thought were, kind of pulled all over the place, pulled out of shape. I don't think they really knew what to do without there being an out-and-out striker. A bit like last week. No out-and-out striker. Those three buzzing around. I thought second half they got a bit more grip on the game, but still too many mistakes at the back there for me overall, mate. What do you think?
Sorry, who are we talking about in particular?
Like the back five in general.
Just in general. Oh yeah. It was a very flat sort of 5 out of 10 performance from all of them. Wouldn't say anybody stood out in that first half, certainly.
No, absolutely. So
luckily they weren't hitting the target.
Let me just read a couple of comments up before we go to the two central midfielders. So Paul Pablo said Sanchez is an accident waiting to happen. Yan Tran, I think Yan Tran and JGR Make having a big old debate about something. I don't know what it is. Ebenite has said Son is far from world class. At the end of the day, you shouldn't be relied upon when form is poor. Sorry, I've got an Amazon driver who's just delivered and decided to ring my Ring doorbell, but I will let the missus get that. Here we go. C Cubed has said, hello, C Cubed. Fickle, disloyal fans to drag Son when he stood by us when we were in the gutter and signed a new contract and saved our asses last season when Kane didn't turn up for an entire half season. We'll talk about this when we get to him, Cougar, but I feel like people are getting a little bit too emotionally attached here. All people are saying is Son's not playing well. I don't feel like anyone's saying sell Hong-Min Son, right? Or
I've heard people talk like that. And Kane, if they have 2 or 3 bad games, they want to sell them. It's there is overreaction among some fans for sure.
From some fans, but I haven't seen anyone in this chat so far say it. I just feel like we've got to a stage in football. Palace 2, Villa 1, Jeffrey Schlupp, who's got the best name in the league, Schlupp. I just feel that we've got to a stage now with football fans, and I see it with so many people in the comments that are so tribalistic that if they've got a favourite player, you're not allowed to pass any judgment. You're not allowed to critique, analyse or anything because it's, oh my God, look what Son's done. All people are saying is, this is football, right? Last year is last year. This year is this year. So far this year, the 3 games Son has played, he hasn't looked good. I don't think that's bad to say. I don't know what's wrong with that. But Hoover, we'll come to Son in a minute. I'm sure it's going to be a big old discussion when we get to Hong-Min Son. Talk to me about Rodrigo Bentancur. Is this another one that was another Jekyll and Hyde performance from first to second?
Yeah, certainly much improved in the second half. But again, he wasn't great in the second half either. He just did a lot better. we struggled. We struggled in that midfield, and he's part of the reason. So was Højbjerg. We just get overran. They were better quality and fit quicker to the ball on everything. We just got ran ragged. And yeah, Bentancur, he's had better games. He was superb against Brighton, poor against Chelsea, and okay-ish overall today.
Yeah.
It was another, for me, a sort of 5/6 out of 10 type performance for him.
Oh, sorry. I think the Palace goal has been chalked off. This is a problem now in football, isn't it? I swear, like my apps, even when I've got my apps on, it'll go goal, and you go yeah, and then it's that's corrected off. Again, I'm going to say with Bentancur, I like Bentancur as a footballer. I think, as I said to you the other week, I feel like he's got that kind of foreign, classy touch about him, elegant. But what I would say is I need to see him have a really good game against a very good team. Because I feel that against the Southamptons of the world, that he looks really good. I need to see him have one of these games against one of the top 6 or 7 for me to go, yeah, he bossed that midfield. Now, I'm not being harsh. I like him. He's a good player. But I think that's what takes you from there to there.
That's why we were talking about we wanted a Milinkovic-Savic. Right. He's that sort of player that shines in this sort of game. Where other people are struggling, he will be the one that shines. He'll be the one that stands up. He'll be the one that makes things happen and drags the others into the game. Because they'll be then the opposition's worried about them, creates room for others. You need that quality in the team sometimes. Bentancur, was he 23, something like that? He's still pretty relatively young for playing a defensive midfielder slot anyway.
Yeah, he's a young man that will learn into it. I mean, if I look today, I'm again so difficult, and I'm contradictory sometimes because I don't like comparing players, but sometimes it's difficult if you don't. And when I look at a performance today from a player like Neves, who I see on the ball constantly, and I see him on the ball with loads of time. He's one of those, gets like Carrick, as you said, always seem to have 2 or 3 seconds, right foot, left foot, can ping it. And Bentancur, for me, goes missing for too many chunks of games. Time will tell. He's only been in 6 months. Time will tell, but that's only a slight concern I have with him at the moment. But I'll ask you about Højbjerg, then I want to talk about our midfield options in general. Højbjerg today, I think we touched upon him. Man of the match. I mean, I was baffled, but what did you make of it?
First half for me, you had to check he was actually playing. He just couldn't get anywhere near any play at all.
Yeah,
absolutely missing. He did up his game in the second half. He was more noticeably getting stuck into tackles, faster to get to the ball, closing the opposition down a lot quicker. He had upped his game, but again, for me, that's yet another sort of 5-6 out of 10 type performance because the first half was poor, second half was a lot better, but wasn't great. It was hardly a wow. He's really turned the game around on its head. You'd look at the performance of we'll come up to him, but there's other people that Perisic was one who had much more of an impact on the game. Kulusevski's the other. Højbjerg again. He gets massively overrated for not doing much at times. On the other hand, he also gets slagged off a lot for when he's doing okay, but not impressive. So,
just quickly, just before we talk about that midfield tours in general, Gogomar, as always, much love to you. Thank you. Always very loyal in all the Spurs YouTube channels, chats. So thank you very much for the super sticker as well. Hope you are well. If you don't, please go and follow Gogomar on Instagram. Some really cool pictures and a really good person. I'll tell you what, we'll wait to the end. I'm going to speak to you about Basuma at the end. I'm going to speak about whether or not Basuma should come into this midfield at the end. Okay, so let's move away from the midfield too. Let's talk about, we'll start on the right. We'll save Son for the end because I feel like that's going to be one of those explosive chats where the soundbite will be Savva says sell Son. Oh, that's too many. That's a lot of S's, that, isn't it? 4 S's. Savva says sell Son. Just soundbite that. Savva doesn't rate him. Sell him for 5 million. let's start with Kulusevski on a serious note. Another Jekyll and Hyde.
Yep, pretty much anonymous in the first half. Second half, when we started to get on the ball more, made things a bit more urgent, got into to him more. Some of his touches were sublime.
Yeah.
Some the direct running was there. Some of the times, if only this little flicks that he did had come off and he would have been free a couple of times, or if he hadn't been fouled at other times and the opponent's picking up a yellow card for it, it would have been through. And it's there. You saw all of his qualities in the second half that were just absent in the first half. And how do you explain it? Is it purely to do with the tempo? It's a little bit more focused with the passing. You didn't have the likes of, somebody said it in chat as well, Davis and Dyer, that first half, they were trying to rain out that 60-yard long ball at all times because our midfield wasn't coping with the press and the quality of Wolves. So we were electing to bypass it. I suppose in a way you could argue they had to because nothing was getting through the middle. So it just played into Wolves' hands and took all of our forwards out of the game. Whenever it did get forward, players would miscontrol it or get swarmed very quickly by the extra player. It was difficult going. So that change of tempo, change of direct passing, much more direct passing, more purpose to the game, more urgency in the second half. That suited Kulusevski to the ground. He looked really dangerous.
He did.
And for me, I think I will go for him edging man of the match.
I mean, maybe he could go and join the Brazil-Burnley revolution. They're 3-1 up. Burnley fans seeing 3 goals in 30 minutes. It's like Christmas for them down there. Come on, that's my new name for them. Burnley, Brazil. Go on. It was. Look, going back to Kulusevski, very dangerous. I thought they played him really well in the first half. But I think, again, once you up that tempo, once we get bodies into the other box, into the other team's half, I thought we had a lot of the ball. He just looks dangerous. He looks unpredictable and dangerous. And I like Kulu.
Having said that, I'll just change my mind again. Perisic, man of the match, maybe. It's one of those two.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, what I'm going to say about Kulu, the same thing I said about Bentancur, in terms of, listen, good players, very good players, but again, it's in games like last week, that's where you've got to see Kulu and Bentancur. That's where I want to see the players stamp their authority on games. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's how players develop. That's how they grow. But what we can't do is see good performances against Wolves and Southampton and the Fulhams and the likes. There's got to be in big games as well. Let's move to a man called Harry Kane, who scored again. Yeah, I know. Some bloke, new guy up front today. New guy. Scored his 250th goal for Tottenham in all competitions. He overtook Sergio Aguero as the most goals for a single club in the Premier League. I mean, he couldn't miss his goal. I thought some of his passing when he dropped deep was wonderful. But again, it felt like another one of those games where he had to come deep because we couldn't get the ball into him. And what did you make of him? Before we talk about that, what did you make of him today?
Yes, it's kind of difficult to mark forwards at times because if they're not seeing a lot of the ball or the ball out to them is poor, it's hard to give them a fair rating. But I agree. Kane was looking okay when he dropped deep a few times, but it was very difficult for us to just get him in the game. There was so much of the traffic through the middle.
Sorry, Kova. Sorry. I'm sorry. When you say this is the most toxic chat I've ever seen, what have we said that's toxic? What's been said that's toxic? I'm not sure what we said. I feel like we're giving a very honest assessment of the game.
Do they mean the comments section? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, well, he's said to me when watching negative Savva. I mean, I don't feel I've said anything negative about this game. I feel it's Kuva. This is what we said would happen last night, right? We said we would scrape through this game, that Wolves would play some really nice football but have no cutting edge, and that Spurs would probably have more clinicalness to call the game off. And I feel that is what happened. So James Pickard, I'll tell you what I'll do, James. And listen, Jay, I don't know who you are. I've got no problem with you at all. What I'll do, James, if you want to, right, I'll give you the login, join us, and come on and tell me what I've said that's negative. I'm more than happy to do that. But what I won't have is people spreading negative Savva when I don't think I've been negative about anything. Sorry. So I'm putting this in the chat. This isn't for everyone. Please do not log in unless you are James Pickard. Okay? Please do not log in if you are not James Pickard. Sorry, Kuva, I interrupted you again, but I don't like the lying.
People incoming, yeah.
I don't like the lying. I don't think I've said anything negative. I try and be objective. Otherwise, I'll turn into one of those Spurs shows where it's everything's amazing. Aren't we brilliant? But and that's not the truth. So sorry, Kuva, you were saying about Harry Kane. Sorry, mate. So sorry.
No, so I was just saying, so big up Daniel Levy and everything's great. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Oh, right. No, sorry. Yeah, Kane struggled to get into the game first half. Second half, wasn't really in the game all that much in the second half either, to be fair. But what do you need from your centre forward above anything else? Put the ball away when given a chance, and he did that.
Yeah.
And as much as with the goal, Perisic did well winning the corner in the first place. Brilliant bit of movement from Perisic to get away from his man to get to the near post. It's almost like he anticipated a poor corner. Got a poor corner, turned it into a good one with that flick on. But then as much as his movement was good, Harry Kane's movement was also good. The step back, the rock forward, step back, and then to the side. Bought himself just a yard of space, and that's all he needs when you're Harry Kane. Any top forward is always going to be moving when they're in the box. He did that, got his goal as a reward. So when we needed it, up he stepped. And if it wasn't him, it could have been Sonny. It just wasn't on this occasion. That's all.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I don't think it was one of Kane's greatest games. Listen, I've said this for the last few years. What I'm seeing more and more from Harry Kane is you can see the frustration in first halves grow, where he's not getting the ball, and you see him dropping 10 yards, 20 yards. Now he's on the halfway line, right? You start seeing him really drop deep. And some of his passing, I would say, I mean, there was one pass, I think he put it over the top to Son, where it was like, I'll take a bow. Like just a wonderful little dink. Some of his passing, I think he's one of the best passers of a ball in the league.
Yeah, without doubt.
I really, really do. I think he's brilliant like that. Right place, right time for the goal. And I just feel with this team, the one shame that there'll always be for me with this team is that we don't have a creative spark that can just feed Kane over and over and over again. I truly feel he would bang in. I feel like he'd bang in over 30 a season if that happened. But I mean, there we go to Heung-min Son, because I mean, it feels like you can't say anything without someone having a go. I
don't mind. I'm always. I like to think I'm fair with what I say about players. When I'm critical, sometimes I'll praise them when they do well.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Heung-min Son. Look, again, it's very difficult because this isn't last season. So what we're doing is we're actually judging on today's game, and I suppose a lot of the frustration from some Spurs fans is coming from all three games combined, right? He didn't do anything against Southampton. He was really poor against Chelsea, and he looked poor again today. Now, again, I want to caveat this from the start. No one is saying at all that he should be sold. No one's saying he's not a quality player. He's just struggling at the moment. I don't know why, but it's not just finishing, is it? It feels like his touch is letting him down. His passing's been sloppy. Is this burnout from last year? Is that possible at the beginning of the season? Complacency? Is it just bad form? I mean, what is it, Kuva? What do you think?
Just a little bit of bad form. I've not got to worry about it at all. It's one of those things like they say, form's temporary, class is permanent. Sonny is a world-class player. He's a world-class player that's currently lost a little bit of his touch. We were saying about this before stream, weren't we, Savo? Thing with Sonny is usually we expect him a ball over the top of Sonny. He takes one touch and he set himself perfectly to strike the ball, and it's away, it's a goal. Yeah. This season so far, it seems that first touch instead of getting him absolutely set for his next shot, that touch being a shot at goal, he's got to manipulate the ball again because it wasn't quite right up to his standards. He's making the runs still. He's not controlling the ball the way he usually does, and it's just a little bit of a dip in form. When you're talking about somebody of his standards, that dip looks massive because we're expecting him to be the clinical best. Is like one of the best finishers we've had at the club. And when it's not working, it looks bad. He's doing okay. For him, for me, this performance today, I'd give him, say, a 6 out of 10. And we're talking about that being a bad performance. For him, it is. For another player, it might be, a 6 is all right. But for Sonny, we're looking at we're expecting an 8 out of 10 all the time. Or if not a 9 or a 10. He's that good. So a dip in form for him, not a worry. It's if it continues, 6, 7, 8 games into the season, then you think, is he's finally are things catching up with him or something? But I'm not worried at the moment.
So the two things I want to discuss with you is this. So first of all, we've probably had this discussion before, but I feel like lots of the comments I've seen in the chat, and it has been very lively for a Saturday afternoon. I think a few people need to get a nice cold beer out of their fridge and relax. I feel like when the chat turns to world class, right? This is such an emotive subject because it always comes down to, Kuva, doesn't it? What is the individual person who's making the opinion? What is their perception of world class, right? So for me, I'm going to say it, I've always said I don't think Son is world class purely on my perception of what world class is. But then again, I don't think many players, Kuva, are world class, right? I'm not one of these that goes, oh my God, he's had a good season, world class. I think it's over years and years and years, depending on what your job role is, depending on, are you a goalkeeper, depending on how solid you've been, depending on a defender, how many, how comfortable you are and how many mistakes you don't make, all this kind of stuff. I've always said, I think Son is a quality finisher when he's on form. Yeah. I've always said, I think when he's going through on goal and he's got nothing to think about, he's an instinctive finisher. And I think he's brilliant. I've always also said, though, I feel that it's when he's not finishing, sometimes his play outside the box, just for me, is not world class. Now, just so I can keep this clear with perspective, Kuva, before anyone has a go, for me, when I'm talking about world class, I'm talking about the likes of Gareth Bale is world class, right? I'm not even going to talk about Messi and Ronaldo, pointless, right? I'm talking about the likes of Xavi and Iniesta were world class. Zidane, Pirlo, Gattuso, right? Edgar Davids, right? I'm looking at that. So before people go, oh my God, this is world class, I don't think there's many of them in the Premier League anymore, but I do think he's a top footballer. So I don't want people to think that's negative. It's just what I perceive, Kuva, as I want my world-class players to be brilliant technically. For me, I can't rate any player world-class if they're not technically brilliant. Because
it's like that. There we go. Our definitions of it differ. Because,
absolutely. That's okay, right?
Because for me, world class is just they can go.
Sorry, you disagreed with my definition, so I locked you off. Sorry, mate.
You're negative, Savva. I'm out of here.
But just quickly, Kuva, I know you're going to answer this, but it's okay, right? It's okay for us to have different definitions. It doesn't. It doesn't mean I love Son any less.
No, it's true. It's true. Different level of standards that apply to players as well. Is
of course
for me, world class is he can just go into any team in the world and not look out of place. Sure. I think Sonny can do that.
Okay.
From your definition, I would say that's what would you call a touch of genius? It's like those players that are way above the others. And Sonny isn't
like your Romarios and
Sonny
your
is not a Lionel Messi. He's not a Ronaldo. No,
right.
He's below that level. Yeah. But it's still a very, very good top of the pack, just not that icing on the cake, really.
Thank you, Gogomar. Thank you very much. You're a very kind person. Just please, just quickly before I go back to Kuva for this chat, please smash that like button. There's 155 of you in here and only 57 likes. If anyone else would like to do a super chat like Gogomar, the money goes to charity, goes to the British Heart Foundation and helps people with heart problems.
And this comment, spot on. So
absolutely. Yeah. But where I wanted to take this conversation down, I didn't really want to do the whole world-class thing, if I'm honest, is, again, people take this personally because it's Son. But for me, right, we bought in, everyone was craving another forward, right? You bring in another forward in Richarlison. And the reason for bringing Richarlison, as I was told, the difference between someone like him and Jesus and him and Skamaka and him was that Richarlison can play anywhere across the front line. He's Brazil's forward, works hard, knows the Premier League, no-brainer. That's what everyone was saying. But the mere suggestion, Kuva, that, okay, next week against West Ham, next week against West Ham, why not say, okay, Son, you're going to be on the bench for 45 minutes and Richarlison's going to start. Jesus Christ, Kuva, World War II breaks out at the mere suggestion of rotating a forward in. Because my point is, if you've got a forward who's not in form and not playing well, what's the point having the £60 million man on the bench if he's never going to get a game if the players in front of him aren't playing well?
Yeah, true. On the other hand, you change it when the team is actually winning? That's the thing. Things aren't broken at the moment. Individuals not performing to the peak of their abilities, maybe. There's a difference. And the fact that we do have 5 substitutes available now, I haven't got a problem with playing Sonny, wait for him to hit form again. Richarlison will get plenty of game time coming off the bench. There's a lot of minutes to be played this season. Richarlison will have his time starting. I don't think I would do it yet. I think it's still a little bit knee-jerk. We're not talking about players that are struggling to make their mark on the game, like a Sessegnon or Emerson Royale. We're talking about the likes of Sonny and Kane, who are well and truly proved themselves. So I'm not going to push the panic button yet. I think we're quite right doing what we're doing at the moment.
So let me flip it then. And again, people in the chat don't get, I have to ask these questions to make the shows interesting. If I'm Richarlison, Kuva, and I'm seeing, forget if it's Son, if it was Kane, if it was Kulis, if whoever, and I'm seeing them have 2-3 games in a row where you're thinking, okay, they've not done well. And I've come on twice. I've done well. I'm not getting crazy with it, but he's come on. He's done well. I thought he had some good runs today when he joined. I thought he looked hungry. And if I was him, wouldn't I be thinking, well, hang on. I've come on. I've shown what I can do. I'm training hard. Surely I deserve a game over one of them, surely.
Or will he be coming on with half an hour to go, having good run out, doing his bit, come off at the end of the game, looking at the league table and seeing Tottenham on 7 points ahead of everybody else and thinking, I'll have some of that.
I mean, Kuva, we don't know him, right? We don't know his personality. He could be either or, right? We don't know what happens behind scenes. All I'm saying is, for years we've cried out for someone, but then the moment you suggest that player gets a chance, it's no. And bearing in mind, Kuva, did I want Richarlison?
I can't remember. Did you? Probably not.
No.
I think you probably wanted Jesus or something, didn't you?
Right. I didn't want Richarlison. So when I'm sitting in now going, well, surely you give the guy a game. It's like all those fans that told me, oh, Richarlison, this is brilliant. This is the player we need to rotate with them free. So I just find the whole thing a bit, are we going to get this sentimental every time either Kane or Son, right, has a bit of bad form, and we suggest that the backup player goes in and gets the minutes?
For me, I've not got a problem with it. It's not like, even if you do bench, say, Sonny for a game, Richarlison comes on, then Sonny comes on with half an hour to go. What's the problem? They're both getting game time, both heavily involved. There's tons of games this season. It's not a worry in the slightest for me. So, rotate them whenever.
just talking points, right? They're just talking points. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, all I will say is reiterate what I said to start with, which is I'm in no panic to see either Sonny or Kane drop from the team. I think that it's just a little dip in form, not a problem.
Here's another one. And listen, I don't disagree with Scott. I'm just going to use your comment, Scott, and much love. If you want to come on, Scott, let me know. Now, this sentence, I've got all sorts of emotions about this. So I don't like the idea of purposefully making our team worse this early in the season. Now, the only thing I would say about this is, in form, yes. But the way Son is playing and the way Richarlison has come off the bench at this stage, I'll ask you this. Does it make the team worse? That's
exactly.
That's the point of him.
Could it be of benefit to Sonny to have 45 minutes to an hour not playing, then come on for half an hour against a tiring opposition where he can stretch them and use his pace and his ability to bang a couple of goals in?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And look, can I just say this point here? Eddie, absolutely. I think we've got to stop doing this right in life. We've got to stop. Somebody says something you don't like and it's, oh my God, they're negative. They're the worst person in the world. You're not a real fan. Look, everyone's entitled to their own opinions. It's happy days. 7 points from 9. We're top of the table, at least for, I don't think anyone today can overtake us, can they? No. So we're 24 hours at the top of the table. I think it's talking points, right? Otherwise, these shows don't exist. You know, these shows don't exist if we don't bring up talking points. And talking about controversial people that are negative and we don't like, here's Scott.
Hey, I'll just clarify my point just so we know. Like, I have no problem with rotating, and I think it's great. I always have to say, I didn't rate Richarlison before he came in, and I thought that I don't rate his performance in both times that he's come on. I know lots of people have. I haven't been impressed. So that's kind of when I say, like, I have no problem bringing somebody on for Son and having him rotate. I just, for me, haven't been impressed with Richarlison before he came here and since he's come on. So that's kind of what I was bringing up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, I mean, look, Scott, I was like you before. Richarlison was definitely not my choice of player I would have liked to have brought in the summer. I'm of the opinion now, though, that he's here. I thought that when he came on, especially this week, I thought he was running at the Wolves defenders. There was a couple of good runs where he was nicking in between them. There wasn't the end product. But I thought certainly he showed a lot more than Son did in his short spell. Now, look, we could say, listen, I don't even think Kane's being great, but you would say that Kane's put the ball in the net twice, right? Kane has scored 2 goals. And unfortunately, this is where I feel like we've still not got the mentality as fans, as a fan base and as a club. At Man City, they don't do this. Like, in the first game, Grealish played really, really well. Grealish, Foden and Haaland played really well against West Ham, right? The week after, Grealish was dropped, Mahrez was in. And it's like, I say dropped, rotated. I can't imagine that Man City fans were sitting there going, oh my God, you bought one. But I just feel like we need to get to that stage where we're not so emotionally attached that every time a Tottenham player is critiqued, that we go, oh my God. Like, and I'm going to bring up some comments, guys. I've been starring some comments that I found quite funny. So I'm going to bring them up for you. The first one was this. So Bill Maxwell has said, it pains my heart to read some of these comments about Son. What's this guy got to do to prove to you all he's a world-class player? Yes, he is having a poor run of form, but he's still world-class. Now, he's followed that up with, he will soon shut you all up, all of you who are talking crap about him. Remember, form is temporary, class is permanent. Then he's followed up with, really, his finishing is world-class, but he's not a world-class player. What utter rubbish. Now, let me ask you this, Scott. First and foremost, I mean, look, Bill, first of all, chill, right? I don't feel it's that bad. I feel people are just saying he's not in form. Why do we do this, Scott? Why do we get so attached to a player that the moment they are talked about, it's as though someone's talking about our kids or our mums or our dads, or it becomes so personal?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start out by saying with his first comment, I agree. It somewhat
just
hurt
grabbing a
me
drink.
too to see all the comments, but for a different reason. It hurts me because it sucks to see Sonny not playing this well, right? So I'll say that, but I don't think a lot of the comments are unwarranted. It's okay to say Son is playing poorly, right? There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean that we think that he's terrible, that we think we should sell him for £10. It's okay to comment on that. And I think it's what we always get back to. For some fans, it's like if you criticize a player, that means you're criticizing Spurs. That means that you think that we're terrible. You're not a real fan, right? It's okay to criticize the team. It's okay to criticize the team and still think that they're going to win the league. I mean, obviously we don't think that, but you could say that, right? Like, I don't, and I think most people who know me know that it's hard for me to get to that mentality that you think that you always have to just be positive, that you don't look at what happens on the pitch, that you don't look at reality, and you just kind of go with that. Everything's great. We're Spurs. We're 100%. We're the greatest. Every player we have is world class, and we can't ever replace anybody with anybody that's there's nobody, right, that can come in and replace our players because we're all the greatest.
Right. And this is the thing. I feel like where people get just a bit too. Listen, we all love Spurs. Look, the fact that I mean, when was the last day you saw me not do something to do with my YouTube channel with Spurs, whether that be a post on Instagram, a video, a daily thought, or a Savva's question, or a show. So I'm right there. I'm emotionally invested. But when I see things like this, and big up to you, Money Pete, but some will never get the appreciation from this fan base. Let him go to another top team so he can win a trophy. Spurs will not win anytime soon. And this fan base do not deserve him. Now, I cast my mind back to about 3 months ago where we're saying that he doesn't get the appreciation. Nearly every Spurs fan I saw was moaning and clambering for this guy to be player of the year, to be in PFA teams of the year, all of this kind of stuff. So I don't really think that the appreciation isn't there. I think what's being found in this comment is it's kind of short-term versus long-term opinions. Short-term is, my opinion is he's not playing well. Long-term, he's one of the first two names on the team sheet for Tottenham Hotspur. And there's no in between. What do you think, Scott? Is he not appreciated by this fan base?
I'll give Sonny credit. He brings out an emotional side to some of his fans that it's hard. Like, I don't think, I'll say, for example, because it's always Sonny versus Kane. Like, I don't see Kane fans having that emotional attachment as much as Son does. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Credit for it. But yeah, he's not, I never get he's not appreciated. And there's people that I talk to a lot in the fan base that I really that I like and I agree with, and I've had this back and forth with them in a positive way. It's not, I don't try to be negative. It's great that fans love players this much. I don't want to take that love and the connection they have away from them, right?
Sure.
But you're right. Last year, I've seen nothing but people saying like how much of a travesty it was that Son wasn't nominated for the awards, that he didn't win awards. He constantly gets praise from the club. Constantly wins player of the year voted by fans, right? Whether he deserves it or not. Some years.
Absolutely.
Like I just don't get the idea that he isn't appreciated. I don't. I
feel like when I go to the stadium, there's South Korean flags. There's more Sun shirts than I think I see of any other player. I just feel that everyone gets very, very emotional. Kuva, I want to bring you in on this comment here. And Rob Shan has said, Son is world class without doubt. Mad people say he is not after he did not score for 3 games. What I would like is whether or not someone thinks he's world class or not. I don't feel that this needs to be a debate every time he has a couple of games where he's not good. Same with Kane. It doesn't need to be, let's be fair, park what I think world class is and what you think is, right? That's not going to change. That doesn't hinge on 3 performances in 10 days, does it? You're not world class because of 10 days of football.
Absolutely. Unless you're Harry Winks, apparently, because he's made a career out of that. It's the old adage, and somebody's brought it up in the comments earlier as well. Form is temporary, class is permanent. So there's no doubting Sonny's abilities. It's just we are questioning how good he is compared to his own standards. We're judging Sonny against Sonny. For his standards, he's not been the player we expected so far. But I think he'll be fine. He will be fine. I have no doubt whatsoever. But people can go over the top, and it works both ways round as well. Because what would you expect if you're not allowed to say Sonny's not been good for his normal standard? What you're allowed to say? What, this was the greatest performance of all time by any living footballer? No, it wasn't, was it? It's somewhere in between. It wasn't the worst either. It was somewhere in between. It's okay to say that. Because usually we are used to seeing, as we said, Sonny hitting an 8 or 9 out of 10 performance, banging in a couple of goals that are winners, basically. That's who we compare it to. And himself, he's not going to be happy about it if he's not played to the peak of his ability. Players are self-critical as well. They don't want to drop their standards. Harry Kane's never happy unless he scores a goal and gets an assist, that sort of thing. Sonny will be down on himself if he's missed. He'll go out and practice more. He'll go out and practice his first touch if it's letting him down. He will be doing these things. He's a consummate professional. I have no doubt about him bouncing back. Question is, how soon is that? How soon before he recaptures his form could happen like that next game? That bangs a hat-trick in, looks a lethal finisher again. Or it might take a couple of games. It's no problem.
Yeah,
no problem at all.
Absolutely. I think the main thing is at least one of him and Kane is scoring, right? If both of them weren't scoring, then you go, hang on, something's not right here. But the fact is, one of them is scoring. And last season, at the beginning of the season, Kane wasn't scoring. Here's a question for you both. The whole Kane v something. Who do you think is going to get more league goals this year? Last year was the first time, if I'm not wrong, somebody will tell me if I'm wrong, that Kane wasn't our top Premier League goal scorer since he broke into the team, if I'm not wrong. I can't think of a season where he wasn't. Do you think we're going to revert back to type this year, and that last year was purely because of the whole Man City thing, coming back from the Euros late, not having trained the first couple of months, kind of the mind not there? Or do we think that Son will pip him to it again? Scott, I'll start with you.
No, I think Kane will probably. I mean, if you have to, like you said, he's consistently scored more goals in the league than Son. So I think it would be not crazy, but I think it makes sense that you would think that Kane would consistently do that. I think he's more of a pure goal scorer than Son. Again, not a criticism of Son, just stating what I feel. So I would say that it's most likely that Kane's going to do it, and that's fine. If Kane goes out and scores 20 goals and Son scores 18, like, that's great. I think. I'm not saying that you're doing it. I think sometimes we need to move away from like Kane versus Son, right? They can both be great, and I think saying that Kane is great doesn't diminish Son, right? Saying that I think Kane will score more goals, I don't think that means that I think Son is crap. It's just what you've seen in the past from them. And sorry, quickly just to say, you had it up there for a while. Somebody saying that nobody came out because of the racist comments to Son and the fan base didn't support him. That's absolute crap.
I've seen loads of comments.
How does somebody say that? Like, I've heard people talking about it all the time. People supporting Son. Like, I've heard it on multiple streams. So I don't know where somebody gets off saying Chelsea. Yeah, this one right here, right? And I don't see any of the fan base supporting him. That's just a straight out lie. So if you're just going to say stuff like that and that's your point, sorry, you're lying. Like, that's.
The thing is as well, I think, look, we all know, that Chelsea idiot who did that, unfortunately, there are a group of people in society that act like that, right? There are. But equally, what I want to say as well is, Money Pete, what I find equally disgusting, and bearing in mind as somebody who YouTubes nearly every day and has hundreds of comments going on, I find equally disgusting the moment you say something negative about Son or critiqued, I get called racist. I don't know if Kuva, when you were on the show the other day with the Irish Hotspur show, I really enjoyed that, by the way. Really enjoyed that show. In the comments, because I said I preferred Kane to Son, which is just my personal preference, the insinuation was, oh, what? Because he's English, because he's white. I'm like, whoa, what? Like, where did you get that from? So what we need is, it needs to be both sides of this coin, right? First of all, you need idiots like that bloke in the stand at Chelsea to be dealt with. You do. There is no place in society for that. But equally, you need people that are sticking up for Son to equally not just go down that route of anyone that doesn't think he's God's gift, to football, is automatically racist. I don't like either of those things, and they're not mutually exclusive. So we need to stop that in the world. I see it a lot. I mean, Kuva, what do you think? I see this loads in chats about, if his name was Diarino, right? And, fans would like him, but because he's English, I don't judge a player on their nationality. I care about their ability. That's not a true reflection of football fans, really, is it? It shouldn't be that.
Absolutely, especially our club. Our club's been all-encompassing for ever since I've been alive, for sure.
Yeah.
We're traditionally reviewed as being a Jewish club, but we have Arabs play for us. We have Jewish people play for us.
Yeah.
We've got people from China, Japan, Eastern Europe, Australians, Africans. It doesn't matter, does it? We just like to see your players doing well. We don't care where they come from. It's fine. And as for not backing them, we do back them every time. When somebody gets called out as judged or racially abused for our team, of course we'd speak out. The thing is, there's an awful lot of streams come out, and you can't go around saying the same thing on one subject over and over. It has its time in the limelight, which it rightly deserved. Police are now involved on it. Let it take its natural course now. I think we did highlight it plenty enough. And every time it comes up, we shall highlight it again.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's not a problem.
Absolutely.
Let's move on. But it's not our problem now. It's we've gone past that stage.
I didn't mean to get on a sidetrack. I just saw that comment, and I just
no, you're right.
I just don't like when people are like that's a straight out lie, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, listen. I had this for years, Scott, when I was on Twitter. I remember I put a post out once saying, "God, I can't wait to see the back of," I think it was Sissoko, Aurier and Sanchez at the time, and because it was 3 black players, I put in that comment, it was, oh my God, you've not mentioned anything about Winks, about Dyer, and it was like, well, okay, but I wasn't talking about those 3, and it kicked off into this whole thing about I'm racist, and I just feel like I've got no time for that. I couldn't give a monkeys. I just don't care about it. Right, let's move on from that. Let's talk about our central midfield options. Kuva, by the way, James Maddison has scored again for Leicester. Leicester 1, Southampton 0, and Brentford have pulled it back against Fulham. They're 2-2.
Tony.
Huh?
Who scored for Brentford?
Who scored for Brentford's Norgard definitely got... Oh, no, it's 2-1. Norgard got 1. It's been disallowed. Sorry. But James Maddison, again, love that bloke. Kuva, let's talk about our central midfield and keep smashing those like buttons, people. Please, please, please. Basuma, come in. Lots of fans were excited about it. Proper midfielder. This guy does it all box to box, better than what we've got. We've not seen him. We've not seen him start a game. Why and would you start him?
Basuma, well, the only reason I wouldn't start him is if he's not physically fit yet. Okay. That is it. I think he will be our most destructive midfielder. I mean, we talked about this before briefly. I view him as our version of Kante. I think he can be that effective for our team. Totally destroys the opposition. He's able to pick out a pass. His passing is much underrated. I think he's got it all. He really has got it all. He can be a box-to-box midfielder. He can be a holding player. He's just a fantastic talent. And all I can think of is because he missed that pre-season, perhaps he's just struggling a little with being up to the fitness that Conte requires, and we're just managing him sensibly into the start of the season. For me, he's going to be a starting 11 player for quite some time.
What do you think, Scott? Are you on the same page as that? Because I'll be honest, I'm really disappointed that so far from the 3 games we've seen, we've had 18 opportunities. Hear me out. We've had 18 opportunities to see our new starters start a game, i.e., 6 new players, 3 games, and we've only seen Perisic start in 1. Are you surprised that Basuma hasn't gone straight in, or do you think it's down to fitness, like Kuva says?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite concerned because I think that we've seen our midfield the last 2 games has looked poor, part because of their play, part because of, in my view, their lack of quality, and in part because they're playing a 2-man midfield, which doesn't seem to be working well the last 2 games, right? So it's not fully just down to them. I do think it. I mean, I kind of hope that it's down to fitness because tactically, I think everybody that I've seen is praised the Basuma signing. I haven't seen any negatives about it, so I think we all kind of agree that as a player, he's what we want to see in the side. But I am also a little concerned. I know he did have COVID, right? So he did miss some training, but it's a little concerning, isn't it? That it seems like we hear like, oh, this guy's not fit. Oh, this guy isn't quite up to being ready for Conte's fitness. Like, is his fitness levels a little too harsh if he's saying that we can't have these players fit enough and nobody seems to be ready to fit into his system? Like, especially when it's players who are quality. When do we start to say, you know what, we're going to need to see that quality in the lineup ahead of fitness levels? Because if everybody isn't fit enough, to me, that's starting to be like, what are we doing? What are we doing wrong? Is it Conte standards are too high? Is there backroom people that aren't getting these guys ready that need to be? Because Longley, I mean, he was injured, right? He missed it. We've heard Perisic concerns that he came off 70 minutes because he isn't ready. It just seems odd that we have so many players that we seem to question whether their fitness is high enough for Conte or they're ready to be played. Maybe that's a concern. Maybe I'm making too much of it, and it'll all come out, in a month or so. Everybody will be playing lots of minutes, but we have a great window, and we've seen a grand total of like 100 minutes for all of our great window signings. Like, it's not very much.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing for me. I'll be honest. Look, 7 points out of 9. We can't knock that. That's been a good start. When I see Soren next, I will remind him that he told me 18 points from 18. But we'll split hairs. If we get 16, I'll be happy with that as well. I did think that a couple of these would certainly go straight into the team, and more so, I think what you've just said there is our midfield. The last 2 games, the dynamic doesn't look right. And I wonder what you two thought about this. Why doesn't the Bentancur Højbjerg, I don't want to say pivot, I hate that word. Why doesn't that really work? Or why has it not been working? Because it did well towards the end of last season, but I just feel that there's not enough in there for those two. I don't feel they've got enough between the two of them to be a 2-man midfield. What do you think, Kuva?
Athleticism and dynamics.
Dynamism. We all know what you mean.
Yeah, okay. Dinosaur. Yeah, that'll do.
Dinosaur, yeah. Not enough
Højbjerg, for me, the biggest problem I've always had with Højbjerg is he's just not mobile. He does not get around the pitch very quickly. It's very easy to bypass him. Any team that moves the ball quickly is going to make him look like a clown. You can't even blame him for that. If you're not quick, you're not quick. So the thing is with him and Bentancur is, in a way, they're fairly similar. They're not the most mobile and athletic sort of players.
Right.
So if you are missing that as a team, and you come up against a team that does move the ball around quickly and accurately, like Wolves did, like Chelsea did, they're bypassed very easily. Now, you stick in a Basuma who is mobile and does throw his weight around very effectively, different beast altogether. So that is what we are missing at the moment. Højbjerg, Bentancur, a little bit too slow to get around. You've got other qualities with them, but you need somebody to do that terrier-like midfield work at times, and also just bossing it, just putting yourself around physically. Basuma is press resistant, as they say, because you are not barging him off the ball. I've seen Højbjerg barged off the ball plenty of times. He's not the strongest midfielder in the world. He is one that's like the annoying yappy dog. He's always snapping at your heels, and he'll cause you problems and upset the rhythm of the other teams. But he's not one to just smash somebody off the ball and say, that's mine, and I'm bossing this game. Does it occasionally, but it tends to be against lesser teams.
Okay, just before I come to you, Scott, just a quick update, because apparently I feel I'm like Jeff Stelling today. Crystal Palace 2, Aston Villa 1. If anyone's got Wilf Zaha in the team, he has got a brace. And off the top of my head, I make that Wilf Zaha is now the Premier League top goal scorer with 3. Anyone else got 3 from the first 2 games?
No, not that I know of.
Wilf Zaha for Golden Boot. There you go. There's another soundbite for you. No, I don't mean that. I don't mean that at all. I don't mean that. Just quickly, people in the chat, please keep smashing that like button. We're on 81 likes. Let's at least get to 100 likes. There's 147 of you in the chat. And please, if you have just joined, or if you've joined, you've been watching before and haven't subscribed, please help me out. I'm 250 away from the 2,000 mark in 14 weeks. So I'm very proud of that. And I desperately want to get there for my 15th week. So please smash the like and smash that subscribe button. Scott, looking at that middle 2, I'm going to ask you this. And lots of talk has been happening about this over the summer. Is it missing that creative spark? Is it all a bit bypassed? And hence why everything goes down the wings and nothing kind of drives through that middle for Spurs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's 100%. I think Kuba did a real good example of showing the struggles that we have defensively, and I think Bentancur does well, especially if we are working well as a team. You can see he's very good at moving that ball around. He is press resistant, but I think one of the issues I have with Bentancur and Højbjerg are neither one are great at kind of taking control of the game and controlling even the pace of the game. Like Bentancur, like you said, he's press resistant. He's good at he can take the ball. If they get pressed, he can move it, but he doesn't really hold the game, slow it down when you need to, speed it up like you need to. Something that, and I'm going to use the Conte guys that did in the past, like a Pirlo did, Brozovic did. I mean, you watch Brozovic, and he isn't a guy that stands out in terms of amazing creative passes, right? He isn't a guy who makes those flashy passes. But what he does is he just controls the game. When Inter needed to go, he could turn it on he could turn on a dime and move it. When they needed to slow down, he'd slow it down and really control the pace as they need it. And neither Bentancur or Højbjerg does that for us. They're not guys who, if we are struggling and we are starting to get overrun, they're not guys who can take that ball, go for a run like a Dembele did. They're not guys who can kind of do what you need to take control of the game. Bentancur,
they're not dinosaur, are they? They're not dinosaur.
No, they're not. They don't have enough dinosaur in them. That's right. There you go.
So let me stick with you, Scott, and then I'll come to you afterwards on this one, Kuva. This is an interesting point, and I can't say I disagree, although we know it's not going to happen. Lots of fans are saying this. Why can't Conte play a 3-5-2? If we're not getting a central attacking midfielder, at least put more bodies in the middle to win the midfield battle and to feed the front two. We're getting schooled in the middle. Now, certainly against Chelsea, we were schooled in the middle. I thought definitely in the first half today, we were schooled in the middle. Is this something you can ever see Scott Conte adapting to, or are we just destined to see the 3-4-3?
No, sorry. Go on, Scott.
Oh, I was just going to say quickly, it is weird because he didn't play it that much at Chelsea either, right? And he did. Right. He has played it at Juve. He has played it at Inter. He played it, I think, with Italy as well. So it's not something that he doesn't do. It just seems he seems almost resistant to move to it here. I don't think we quite have the exact players because I think a 3-5-2 would probably result in better right now, like putting an extra guy in. But I don't think Bissouma, Bentancur, and Højbjerg are a great kind of a match for that, right? Like that's not who I want to see.
There's not that dynamic one to go in with them, is there? I think that I know we always say, Scott, I know, and I'm not, but we always use Milinkovic-Savic as the example of that guy that goes in and he is completely different to what everything else we've got. That's what's needed, right, guys? That's what's needed.
Yeah, I think we use him because he is kind of seems like a perfect fit because I think he could also provide a lot in a 3-4-3 as well. I think in a two-man midfield he could do it. Whereas I think Maddison could because I just think Maddison is such a talented player, and I think talented players fit. I don't think it's ideal for him. I think he's a much better fit in a 3-5-2, for example. But I just think that we don't have that player, like you said, that adds a different dynamic, and that's the problem. That's what I'll say about our midfield is I don't mind Bentancur, I think he's a good player. Bissouma's a good player. Højbjerg isn't my favorite, but he's not Winks. And Skip as well. That's 4. I'll call them solid midfielders, to be fair. Those 4 guys who can play in the Premier League, right? They, depending on but they're so similar. There's nothing that any of them kind of bring in that's that much different. I mean, Bissouma might be better at things. Højbjerg might be slightly, but you know what I mean? There's no difference.
Yeah. There's no one there that's going to get that ball, control the midfield, say, give it to me at every opportunity, ping it left, ping it right, ping it to the forwards. It just feels we've got a safe 4. Not in a horrible way. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't feel like there's one bloke in there that you look at and go, him. He's the one. Do you know what I mean? Kuva, are we being harsh? Are we underestimating any of the 4 and Papa Sarr, who's still at the club at the moment? Are we underestimating any of their ability to be that guy?
We don't necessarily have to look at him being the attacking midfielder as the third one of a midfield 3. The other way of looking at it would be, if you've got your wing backs of high quality, you have 3 very, very solid midfielders keeping control of the midfield, stopping the opponents going. You get your wing backs into the game, and that's where you get your creativity, which was a trait of a lot of Conte teams. Now, if you've got the likes of Kane and Sonny up front, or Kane and Kulusevski, Kane and Richarlison, get 2 great wing backs like Perisic, and look, we don't have one on the other side. That's probably, for me, that's the biggest reason why we're not doing it. We need Kulusevski in on the right-hand side for his creativity there, because we can't rely on the wing back doing it there.
Right.
The only one we got close to it is, he's not even in the team. I'd say Jed Spence is probably should be the number 1 at some point, and that's saying something. That's how lacking we are there.
It's a real dilemma there, isn't it? It's, I mean, there was, just quickly, if anyone's got Che Adams in their fantasy team, he's just equalised away at Leicester for Southampton, just so you know. And
just didn't quite pick him for some reason.
No. And the other player with 3 goals, I was rightfully informed, was Rodrigo of Leeds, has got 3 goals this season. So Rodrigo and Zaha in a golden boot battle. Who would have thought that after 3 games, eh? Okay, guys, so we've given ourselves a lovely platform, right? We've given ourselves a really good platform, 7 points from 9. Next 2 games coming up are Nottingham Forest and West Ham. What do we need to do to improve? I.e., we can't keep doing this, we? Can't keep having first halves where we're off the pace and then relying on second halves. What do we need to do? Is it come out the trap, Scott, with a better tempo? Is it a change of personnel in midfield and at the wing back? What is it that we need to do to be able to sustain that kind of second half momentum that we had?
I mean, my solution is obviously get new players, but that's not going to happen. So it's a real concern. I obviously really rate Conte, and I think that I know you were talking earlier about, is it time that we're allowed to criticize him? But it has to be something that we look at, because it's a problem that we've had. It's something that you would think that he should be able to fix, right? Even if it's just something, I don't know, there's got to be something tactically that he can say, just take it to do things. But it doesn't seem that we can do it. Perisic being out there, I think, was a positive change, and maybe now it's Bissouma. I don't know. Maybe he is the player that we need, and putting him in there, he's going to be a little bit more on the ball. He's going to allow us, like Kuva said, his athleticism might allow us to do a little bit more. But I wish I had an easier answer, and I'm sorry that I don't. But it's just I think it's a little bit puzzling, right? It is puzzling because it's not a one-off. And I know we talked about it the other day, and somebody said it's only been 2 games, but it hasn't, because it's something that we dealt with last season as well. And it's more than just a one-off and a little concern. It's something that is really happening too often for us, and is a problem. Like you say, we can't rely every game that we're going to get late goals. It's great that we have Sonny and Kane and Kulusevski who can have those moments of brilliance to save us. But if we think that that's how you're going to be going and having success over 38 games, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Kuva, I mean, when you look at, listen, I'm not suggesting we're in a title challenge at all. You know, I don't believe that. But to chase down the top two, which is obviously the aim for this club, right? That's whether that's over a year, 24 months, 36 months, that's the aim, right? You don't often see, and I'm not talking about the last two games in the Premier League this season, but Liverpool, Man City, they don't often have those halves like what Spurs had today, do they? Where you go in at half time and you go, oh my God, they were just absolutely outplayed by X, Y, and Z. In your opinion, have you got a similar answer to Scott, or do you see that there is something that we can do for that to settle us down and to not keep having these? Listen, I'm cool with the we don't give up, the tenacity, you know, the never say die attitude, but it can't be that every week, can it? It can't be the battling every week. What can we do to control?
You tell me. If we knew what the answer was, I'm sure we would have done it by now. I'm going back to what we were talking about earlier. Is it just a little bit too comfortable? Is it a little bit too cushy life at Spurs for players? Should we be getting back to blood, sweat, and tears and having a fight for everything? Because sometimes when Manchester City do get outplayed, it's the likes of Crystal Palace do it, out fighting them, making it difficult with every single ball that's contested. Mm-hmm. And it's those surprise ones. Burnley had a habit of doing that against teams. Are we just not prepared to get dirty when we're supposed to? Are we not prepared to get into the trenches and fight for everything from the start? Because sometimes our quality isn't showing. It's a lack of form. Sometimes you've got to do the ugly side of the game. And sometimes it's about stopping them from having an easy time just passing it around freely like Wolves were today. You've got to be at them. You've got to stick your boot in and kick them up in the air a bit. I mean, God's sake, that's where we miss a Romero, isn't it?
Well, let me ask you off the back of that then, one of the points. And by the way, guys, get questions in. I'm starting to start some questions that I'm going to go through now. I've gone through the topics I wanted to. So we will now start going into your questions. So I've got some start I'm going to bring up in a second. But just quickly, Kuva, off the back of that, Ivan Toney has just equalised for Brentford.
Get in.
Ivan Toney and Crystal Palace. Clinton Morrison's doing this. Crystal Palace are 3-1 up against Villa. And in a bit after the questions, I want to talk to you guys just about a few of the managers in the league, because I think Gerrard is in huge, huge trouble. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Kuva, one of the things for me, this is a bloody good point. Where did I see it?
I'm glad you're not talking about this one.
Which one was that?
The one before, Adama Traore, right wing
back.
Back.
Sorry, no, I wasn't talking about that. I do like his oily skin when he comes on though. That always makes me laugh. He's all oiled up. Like
it'd be rubbish, but it'd be exciting rubbish, I suppose.
It'd be like I don't know if you watch Family Guy, and you see they've got greased up deaf guy that no one can catch. Like, it just reminds me of that. This comment from Daryl, by the way, Everton 0, Forest 0. Sounds like it's been an absolute amazing game there. We let teams play equals no press. Now, one of the things I think Joe Cole said it at half time was Spurs front three don't press. Kane, Son, and Kulu weren't. The more I watched it, they weren't pressing and closing down. Now, Richarlison did when he came on, but is that a worry in any way, shape, or form as we move on in this season if those three aren't going to press? Because Kulu's not got the best engine in the world. Kane's never been the quickest, and Son seems off the pace. So if those three aren't closing down, aren't we asking for our midfield to be overrun? Just a question.
That's a tough one again, isn't it? How much is by design and how much is by players not really being up to it? Because, I mean, we had the likes of the Mourinho style of play where low block would hardly press at all until they got into our half, just let them have the ball. Whereas Pochettino before that, very high press, very aggressive. Yeah. And you needed players with a bit of youth, a bit of extra energy to their game to make it work. We're kind of halfway between with a lot of our forwards now. Sonny and Kane are pushing 30, if they're not 30 already. Is Sonny 30 now? I think he might be.
I think he is, or just about to, right? He is 30, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Perisic, 33. They're not going to be able to press like maniacs, are they? So they've got to do it. They've got to do it sensibly. Now, where is our cut-off point? Where do we really press teams at the moment? We're certainly not playing a high press, are we?
Right.
So, at what point is the plan to start pressing? Is it when they get into our half, Mourinho-esque?
Yeah.
I'd say it was a little bit further forward than that, but not a lot.
Right.
Perhaps that is just an appreciation of players' level of fitness. Perhaps that's why we're missing the likes of Skippy so much, because he does offer that sort of spring, jet-heeled little terrier-like, chase the ball around everywhere. Perhaps that's why I'd love to see the likes of Barella in for that purpose as well. I mean, my plan a while back was Skippy and Barella doing that sort of twin terriers in midfield. Would be a nightmare to play against with them two hanging down everything.
If not going to buy Barella, just to burst your bubble there, Kuva.
We're not, are we? But we're not going to buy anybody, mate. That's why, unless they're cheap.
So just quickly, before I move on to some questions I want to ask you guys, I'm asking kindly for 5 subscribers. There must be, of the 144 of you in the chat, 5 of you mustn't have subscribed. Please do subscribe. I've got a milestone I'm trying to hit, so please do. Let me ask you boys some questions. I've started some questions, and then afterwards, remind me, I do want to talk about Steven Gerrard. I just do. I don't know why. Hasper, big up yourself, he has said, Hakimi, that name again, is reportedly up for sale at PSG. Man, you are looking at him. We should be going for him if we have any ambition. Now, I suppose this breaks down into multiple layers, right? First and foremost, is Hakimi available? Second of all, if he is and Man United get him, I would be absolutely gutted that Man U have gone out and got Casemiro and Hakimi whilst being in a mess. Could we get, look, would Hakimi have any interest in joining us? And if he joins Man U, doesn't that dispel the myth that we could never have got him? Because surely right now, from manager to league position to Champions League to everything, we're a more attractive proposition. What do you reckon, Scott? Lots of questions in there.
I'll go with the easiest one first. Should we get him? Of course. He is exactly what we need. I don't think there can even be any debate about that, right? Like, he's shown that he's quality at Dortmund. He's shown that he's quality at Inter. He's shown he's quality at PSG. He's worked in a Conte system before. We know that he fits what we need. So I don't think there should be any debate. Should we get him? Yes. I don't care what the money is. Like, he is, I think, a player that you say, who cares, right? You just go buy him. You don't need to worry. I guess if it's 200 million, but we're not going to we know that it's going to be something, right? If it's 80 million, pay 80 million. If it's 100 million, I would even look at it because he's that good of a player and that good of a fit. Whether or not we can get him, I think that would be something that would go to when we've all heard how much this is a different window. Things have changed for us because he is 100% the kind of player that in the past we wouldn't get, right? That is something where you say, could he go to United? Yeah, that's what would happen. He would go to United, even though they are not in Champions League, even though that they don't have Conte. In the past, he would go to United, we would miss out, and we'd say, well, we can't get him. We're just little old Spurs. We just try to truck along here and do the best that we can. But that's supposed to be what's changed. So, yeah, I think if he goes to United, there's no excuse. If somebody says, well, they're going to pay him wages, then pay him the wages. I personally am tired of hearing that, oh, we can't match wage. Oh, Harry Kane has a wage limit. He has to get paid. Then up Kane's wages. I don't care. That's what.
Yeah.
Right? Again, this all is on the premise if we are a big club. And if we aren't, fair enough. And if I'm wrong about us being a big club, then I'll say, okay, fair enough. Let's back down. We'll be a second-tier club. We'll hope to get fourth. We'll hope we can get lucky on a run, and we'll go have fun trying to win Europa. That's fine. But if we are going to be a world-class club, if we are going to be a big club, then you go out and you get Hakimi. You don't care about wage caps. You don't care about this. You pay him 350. You up Kane to 350. You give Son 250, and you get this done.
Yeah, I think you're right, Kuva. What do you reckon, mate? In terms of, we hear this argument loads, don't we? That, oh, but what about the salary? But if that's going to be the argument every window, then you're never ever going to compete. So I agree with Scott. If bringing in, Hakimi, whoever, bringing in whoever at that level, if that means upping Kane 50 grand a week, that's what you've got to do, right?
Yep, that's it. I mean, I'm so utterly sick of being told, "Oh, we're such a big club. Look at the stadium. Look how far we've come. Greatest stadium in the world, and we make bigger profit, record profit for a football club one year." That was quite recent. And then suddenly, when it comes to paying for players or wages, then suddenly, oh, well, we're not Man City, are we? We can't afford this kind of thing. It's ridiculous. We've got business to run here. It's like, well, are we the biggest or aren't we? The conflicting sort of viewpoints on the club. You want the best, you pay for the best. You pay top transfer fees, you pay top wages. Are we one of the biggest clubs in Europe or not? That's the real question. If we are, be it. Walk the walk. Don't just keep giving excuses and pulling fast ones and doing cheap little signings and saying what a glorious window it is that we've spent 50 million on one forward to rotate with the front view, which is good. Basuma's a good signing. Perisic is free. Good signing though. Where's the extra mile? Where's the bit that pushes us from just scraping top four to pushing up to try and get closer to Man City? Where's that brilliant signing? Hakimi is one. Milinkovic-Savic is another one. If you're really going for it, you find a way to get both of them. Right. My God, what a window it is then.
And I think for me, Kuva, this is I'm not sure about all of these, but I was expecting. Was I expecting? I was hoping that with all the noise I'm hearing from fans that Savva, you're wrong about ENIC and this is the window, I was hoping we would see one statement, one player that makes you think, you know what? Yeah, okay. Even if they went and got one of them this window and you go, brilliant. Now add another one next window. Do you know what I mean? Nottingham Forest have just taken the lead at Everton in the 80th minute. So when we talk about Gerrard, can we talk about Lampard with him? I feel like they're two peas in a pod waiting to be sacked. But do you know what I mean, Kuva? I've never ever said that it's about bringing in multiple world-class players at once. But when people say these players won't come to us, I've just sat there last night and this morning and watched Casemiro. Now, you watch how many Spurs fans say that he wouldn't get into our team. You watch Casemiro, the man that's won 5 Champions Leagues, 6 Champions Leagues. Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Like multiple La Ligas, this, that, the other, Brazil's central midfielder, go to Man United, who he's just watched get smashed 4-0 at Brentford, right? If they can attract a Casemiro, why on earth can we not attract a Milinkovic-Savic, a Hakimi, a Maddison? For me, this doesn't fall on can we attract. This falls on are we trying to attract? And by the way, if you've got Che Adams in your fantasy team, he also has a brace. Lead Leicester City 1, Southampton 2. So I don't know.
Golden boot odds. Get some money on, mate.
Yeah, and I don't know whether let's chuck Brendan Rodgers into the conversation with Lampard and Gerrard.
So there's a lot of managers under pressure, isn't there?
Let's look at the next question. This is a strange one, Scott. Money Peter said, and I've just lost a subscriber. Unbelievable. You ask for 5 more and you lose one. Would like to see was it you, Kuva? If you unsubscribed.
Yeah. I think you're too negative, mate.
Oh, mate, I know.
I was going to say it wasn't me because I was never subscribed, but.
Oh, Scott. Scott, to think
it's
I give you
3 out of 10 channel, mate, isn't it?
Oh, hey, I'm going places, me. Don't you worry. I've been sent a WhatsApp today by the Football Terrace asking me to go on there. Money Peter said, would like to see Spence to see what he can do. Can't be worse than what we have currently. Now, chaps, talk to me. This was the whole big hoo-ha, wasn't it? Of Conte coming out and saying, like, he's a club signing, but I gave the green light. We've not seen him. He's not been on the bench. Tanganga's on the bench instead of him. He's got, let's be fair, if you're not getting in above Doherty and Royal, but you've been What the hell is going on with that, lads? Scott, let me start with you. What is going on?
I mean, I guess in a sense, I do agree with the part where it says can't be worse than what we currently have. Now, that isn't exactly my favorite reason to put somebody in. I mean, I kind of was hoping that we would be a little bit beyond the past. Can't be worse than the player we have. But I agree, certainly, especially going forward, right? I mean, I saw some people, I'm sure, again, people are going to be talking about how Royale was pretty solid and he's learning, but he did nothing. Like going forward, again, he just offers so little. Every time he gets the ball, you look at him and he's just looking to get that ball to somebody else as fast as he can, right? He doesn't want to make a cross. He doesn't want to take somebody on. He wants to move that ball to Kulishevsky or a midfielder as fast as he can so they can make the play. So, yeah, being an upgrade going forward isn't that difficult, I think, at right wing back. But I think when everybody, I'm sure you guys have both seen it, said, well, yes, it wasn't a Conte signing, but he obviously approved it. He likes it. Or else he wouldn't be here. Well, I think Conte is showing what he thinks about the signing by having him not even on the bench. Like, if you think that that's a Conte signing, he's approved it. He's happy with the right wing back situation, bringing in Spence, and he doesn't even start him on the bench. I think that says more than pretty much anything. Although he basically did say he didn't. It wasn't his signing, right? So, I guess why not? I mean, at this point, sure, right wing back isn't working. Let's try it. But man, that's depressing to think that we are at the point in this season after our wonderful transfer window where we're saying can't be any worse, so why not?
Yeah, I mean, Kuva, absolutely right. This guy, I mean, this was a transfer saga that went on forever. And when we got there in the end, it wasn't even the 20 million people were talking about. It was about 12.5 million. 12.5 million. Man United went out last night. Apparently they're broke. Apparently the Glazers are putting in no money, and they've just gone 60 million. Now they're going, well, how much do you want? Now, listen, I'm not saying spray and pray is the best approach, but the fact that Man United are going 60 million there, or what you want 90 million for Anthony, 90 million, 12.5 million for Spence. He's not even on the bench, Kuva. He's not even in the 20.
Well, for me, there's a question mark over Spence, isn't there? What can he do? I'd like to see it. Because with Emerson and Doherty, I'll tell you what they can't do, and that's be a proper wing back. They're both severely lacking. So, yeah, I'm actually all for it. I prefer to take that bit of a shot in the dark with Spence. At least he's shown some of the traits that are going to fit the role. He can take people on. He's got pace.
Right.
There's something exciting about him. The two we currently got, forget it. I think Doherty can at least offer a little bit in the final third of the field, but even if it's just his height and just physical presence, but he hasn't got the pace to get back at any point, so that puts pressure on the team by his lack of athleticism. So yeah, Jed Spence could tick the boxes. He could fail. That's a possibility too, but we won't know unless he gets a go. All I know is the two we got at the moment, crap. Why not give the new kid a chance?
Okay. Sorry, just quickly. THFC Caveman, this from a while back, has said, we don't want players to feel undroppable. If they are poor, rotate and make them fight and inspire them. Let me ask you guys, is Conte that manager? Is Conte the manager that will... I don't like the word... I don't like the word drop. I'm not saying this guy said drop, but is Conte the man to rotate players that are out of form? I'm not saying Son, but I'm just saying anyone in the team. Is he that manager?
I don't think that's what he's done in the past, right? If I'm not mistaken, and I know it's kind of a combination of watching and reading, but it seems like in the past he has had a group that he likes. He likes to have a smaller squad of players that he trusts and goes forward with. And I don't think it's that he doesn't want people to feel undroppable. I think he likes the players that he likes, and he feels comfortable when they're playing his system. Now, I think at our club, though, he clearly doesn't have that right now. So, I mean, you say you don't want players to feel undroppable, sure, but if you're looking at the bench and the backup, I like Tanganga. I think he might do something well going forward, but you're not exactly going to say, oh, he's coming to take my position, right? He needs to go out and play at a lower level and get experience. I mean, are people looking at Harry Winks and say, "Uh-oh, here comes Harry Winks to take my position," right? No, because we just don't. I don't think we have the depth right now. Even Richarlison, and this is what I've said before, and we talked about the depth. Richarlison can come on for one player, one time. So even if we say we're going to have him come on for Son, well, Kulusevski and Kane, is Kane worried that Lucas Moura is going to come take his spot then? No.
Right.
Well, and even now, Moura has more. I think Moura has more of a chance to come on as a right wing back than he has for replacing Kulusevski or Kane. So, yeah, I don't think we want people to feel like that they're undroppable, but it's also hard not to feel like you're undroppable when you look at that bench and you see that the options are so limited behind you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, Kuva, are you of the same opinion? By the way, Fulham in the 90th minute, Fulham 3, Brentford 2. Everton have equalised in the 90th minute against Nottingham Forest. Damari Gray. Mitrovic has scored again. I believe that puts him on to 3 for the season.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's a Rodrigo, Zaha, Mitrovic golden boot race. Who are Son, Kane, Haaland and Salah? Who are they? Who are these players? Kuva, talk to me. Can you see him doing it? Or is this going to be a case of, this is my 11, they are undroppable?
I think Conte's got that sort of air of the old school management about him where, we always say about got to prove yourself on the training pitch.
Right.
If he's happy with what he sees in training, he will have those players will have earned the trust of the manager. So I think it doesn't matter what we're seeing on the Saturday. It's what happens between those games that matters. And obviously, it seems the likelihood of Emerson starting again for the foreseeable future. And people like Kane, Sonny, you're not going to drop them very easily. Kulusevski, because he's depended on them before. They came through trumps last season.
Right.
That's what Conte knows of them. So they've already built up that rapport with the manager. He obviously likes Richarlison. That's why he wanted to get him. I do believe that is a genuine Conte signing. Mm-hmm. I think he admires that sort of attitude in a player. So I think he'll get his time. He'll learn it as well. He'll learn it on the training pitch and he'll learn it through performances when he does come on. I mean, It might have been technically not the greatest when he's come on the last 2 games, but his aggression and his running around at the front did change the shape of the game. It did help push the other teams back. And he's shown there's something there. So I think, all players should be kept on their toes, but you don't just bring somebody on for the sake of it, do you? Like you said, with Moura, you wouldn't bring Lucas Moura on for Harry Kane, would you? You wouldn't bring him on for Kulusevski.
This is just quickly, people. We're going to go for another 10 minutes, as long as that's Scott Coover, as long as that's all right with you guys. Going to go for another 10 minutes. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing for me, Coover, where I've been saying all window about lots of fans are talking about this wonderful depth. I still look at the bench and I say, okay, obviously Perisic started today. Once Basuma gets up to speed and he starts, I then look at that bench, like you said, like Scott said, all right, Richarlison, I think, will pretty much always be the first sub on. Right? I feel like he will be the man. And then I look after that and go, well, what's really coming on to influence? Like, I don't feel bringing Sessegnon on the drop-off when Sessegnon came on for Perisic, you could see immediately Sessegnon, his first 2 passes, he gave the ball away. It just wasn't, it wasn't the same. And I feel like we're going to have
that. It's like dropping an anchor.
Well, yeah, it is. I want to talk about this for the last 10 minutes. I want to move away just from Spurs slightly, and I want to talk about 2 things. First of all, I want to talk about the managers that are going to get sacked first. And the second thing I want to talk about is this golden boot. I'm not saying Che Adams, by the way, but I just want to talk about this golden boot situation. Let's start with that. Can you guys see anyone outside of these 4 players winning it? Kane, Haaland, Salah, and Son. So the reason I say that is somebody in here has talked about Jesus. He could be involved in there. Could Mitrovic get you 18, 19 league goals? He's got 3 and 2. I'm just trying. Kuva, you take this one first. What do you reckon, mate?
You know what? As much as it pains me to say it, I wouldn't rule out Jesus. It may be just the move he needs to become the man at the Scum, instead of just like another one of a great bunch at Man City. It might be the making of him. Then again, well, I think we'd all like it to fail quite miserably and he struggles to get 10 goals. So I wouldn't rule him out yet. I also wouldn't rule out somebody that's not even playing in the league at the moment, and a certain potential Chelsea signing.
Aubameyang.
Yeah. That's just the kind of thing that Chelsea could do. Bring him in. That's it. The one player they need is that centre forward, isn't it? If he came in, he's a contender straight away for me. And
the thing is as well, he's got that existing relationship with not only the Premier League, but with Tuchel. And, this isn't going to be like when people go, oh, look, when he was at Arsenal. He was at an Arsenal team that weren't going anywhere. Going to a Chelsea team where he's playing with quality players week in, week out. I genuinely think he could get you 20-odd Premier League goals. I think he's that good. I think he's a very good finisher. Scott, what do you make of it? Could Aubameyang enter his name in if he signs?
Yeah, he certainly. I mean, we saw the one thing why I'll say about Jesus is that the problem he's going to have, and I'm not just being anti-Arsenal, I don't think he has the players around him to create as many chances as players like Aubameyang would have at Chelsea, as Haaland's going to have at City, Salah has at Liverpool, right? Right now.
Do you not think?
I think watching them, even he's doing a lot of work on his self. It doesn't mean that Saka, Odegaard, and Smith Rowe are terrible. I'm not going to be that Spurs.
Don't be that guy.
But I do think that they are still 3 guys. Like those are, I think, are the 3 main creative players they have. Correct me if there's somebody else you think I'm missing. But I think that those are young guys. I just think that once they start playing in the European games, I just not sure they have the depth that he'll constantly do it. I think that he'll be high. Like if you said top, who are those? You listed 4 guys, right? I don't think that they'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. I think Jesus could be up there in like 2nd or 3rd, maybe. I just don't think that he's going to beat all of them. And honestly, I might even say take Haaland over everyone. Even if I'll give you Salah, I'll give you Kane, I'll give you Son, and I might still take Haaland just because. The only thing that I think that holds him back from winning is that we know City is able to rotate more than anyone, right? So he might end up only playing 30 league games. But I think if he plays anything close to 38 games, I have a hard time seeing him not winning the Golden Boot. He is so impressive. City are so impressive.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's hard not to.
The crazy thing with City is it might not even be Haaland that wins it. It could be of Alvarez. He's a bloody brilliant player. If he gets a run in the team, he can start smashing goals in too.
It's crazy, isn't it? They just get goals from everywhere, though, don't they? Are we seeing Son in that battle? I mean, is he going to be in that battle again this year? Is it possible for both him and Kane and Kulusevski and Richarlison to share enough goals between them to have 2 of them up there again?
I wouldn't bet on it, but I think it's certainly possible. I mean, I think he did look. You can't discount what he did last year. It was very impressive. He showed that he has the ability to be up there. So I'll give him same thing with when we're going to say about Aubameyang. People might laugh and we're going to have a thing about, oh, he's old, he's Arsenal, blah. He's repeatedly shown over multiple seasons that he can produce that level of goals. And I think sometimes people, I don't want to say underestimate it, but if you look back and you see, there's not many players who have put up that kind of goal total that Son put up recently, right? It's an impressive feat. So I doubt that he would win. Like you said, there's going to be a lot of, I think Kane's going to kind of get back to his higher levels than he has been. I think he's likely going to be our leading scorer. So, and I just think that we're still a little bit like Arsenal, even, I guess I have to say. We've talked about how much we're struggling to produce from right wing back. We're struggling to produce through the midfield. So when we say, is there enough goals? Is there going to be enough chances? Son can be clinical and put away a high percentage of the chances he gets. Is he going to get enough chances, right? Are we going to create enough chances for for him and Richarlison and Son and Kane and Kulusevski, because right now,
I mean, I
be really clinical.
I think one of the things as well, I think they're going to need to be clinical, because if we keep playing the way we are, it's all good at the moment, and we've got 2 wins and a draw. But if I look at the number of opportunities we have presented in the last 2 games alone to Chelsea and Wolves, luckily, like I said to Kuva earlier, neither of them have got centre forwards, goal scoring centre forwards at the moment. That's a lot of chances to give up. So hopefully, I don't want to be one of those teams that is going to, like the kind of Ozzy Ardiles style, you score 3, we'll score 4. Guys, this is an interesting one. Just before we go to the manager's piece, Vincenzo Lombardo sat that. Now that, if ever there was a name for a midfielder, that is him right there. He said, Savva, Tottenham or Chelsea? And I think that means to say who is better. Guys, I mean, it's a tough one. I've heard this all window, right? All window. And the reason that people talk about these 2 teams a lot, same way as Spurs and Arsenal, is if we look down, it's Arsenal. If we look up, it's Chelsea, realistically. Been lots of talk. What do you guys make of this? Where are you with this debate? Who's the better team? Not the better club with Spurs fans, but who is the better team?
For me at the moment, Chelsea, purely because they are 1 player away from having a team that can win things.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're further away than that. I think we need right wing back, centre back, create a bit more creative player for the middle as well. I think we're at least 3 players away.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sorry, just quickly, Scott, I just want to say quickly, guys, we're going to go for just under 10 more minutes. Please, can you hit that like button? Please, 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 if you haven't already. There are 140 of you still in the chat, so thank you. Please, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Want to get to 145 before I log off. I will be giving you, there'll be more ticket giveaways for the Spurs. I want to say our next game is Fulham. For the Spurs Fulham game, I'll be giving away 2 tickets, but please hit that subscribe button and get me to the 1,745 in the next 10 minutes. Sorry, Scott, off you go, Chelsea.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we just saw Chelsea finish 3rd, and I know people will say under Conte, blah, 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 we did better, but we just saw them finish 3rd while we finished 4th. They made to 2 domestic cup finals last year. They had a decent run in the Champions League. We just played them last week, and they played us off the park. It's hard for me not to say right now that Chelsea's not the better team, and I don't think it's outrageous. I don't think that means we're crap. If you ask me where do I think the clubs are going to finish, I think either one of us. I think we're clearly the 3rd and 4th best teams in the league. I know people are worried about Liverpool falling off, but I think we look to be the 3rd or 4th place team. If at the end of the year one of us was 3rd, the other was 4th, I wouldn't be surprised for either of us finishing that way. I think, like Uva said, what does concern me a little bit about going forward is Chelsea seems to have the easier fix, i.e. they bring in Aubameyang and they're pretty good. If they bring in Aubameyang and Fofana, oh my goodness, then now I think they're clearly ahead of us. And I think the other thing about it is not only is it seem to be easier, they have less holes to fill. They seem more likely to do it. I know maybe people will say we're being quiet and we're going to make a stealth move, but there doesn't seem to be any links for us that we are making moves or any impetus from the club that we are going to fix the holes that we all want to do. Like we talk about Hakimi, we're talking about midfield. We always will talk about center back because we need it, but it sure does not. I don't have any faith that we're bringing any of those pieces in.
Listen, I agree with both of you. I think that's the thing. When you look at Chelsea, I think if Chelsea finished the summer with what they've got now, I'd say excellent team, will always struggle to kill off games without a forward. If you are looking at their rotation, would be, well, Aubameyang would probably play them. If they bring in Aubameyang and they have Aubameyang up top with Sterling to one side, Havertz the other, then you've got players like, obviously depending who leaves, like Ziyech is still there, Mount. You know, for me, that's the crucial thing for Chelsea. If they get a forward, I feel like I'll be fully happy with my fourth prediction. If they don't get a forward, I'll be happy to sit there in 2 weeks' time and say, you know what? I reckon we can finish third. But like you said, Scott, I wouldn't be surprised either way at the moment, third or fourth. But they get a striker with the chances they create, the wing backs they've got, the strength in midfield, and their centre halves. I just don't think we can compete with that all over the pitch. So it will be very, very interesting. Just quickly, someone desperately wants me to read this question out. He said it twice. Leon Mackey 10, I like that, has said, answer the question. Okay, we will, Leon Mackey 10. Where will Spurs in the chase for Koulibaly, Cucurella, and De Jong? I mean, guys, it's not. There's nothing to answer here, is there? It's we weren't. We don't buy players like this.
Yeah,
I think the Koulibaly is the one that really hurts, because I think Cucurella, you could say, well, you know, we had Perisic, so maybe you can kind of. He's clearly an upgrade over Sessegnon and Reguilon and that, but you could. I'm okay saying we had Perisic, so maybe you're okay with that. De Jong, it's an interesting situation. I think he's a player we desperately need, but I do think there's some things with the player in terms of him not really wanting to leave Barcelona. So while I'm not going to give us a full pass on that. I do think that that's a complicated deal that might not even get done. But Koulibaly's the one. I mean, that is exactly what we need. And you watched him play in Chelsea. Like he's I think he's 30, right? He's an experienced guy. Just to have that back line, he's everything that people say Eric Dyer is that he actually isn't.
You're absolutely.
He's the guy that sets the line. He's the guy who controls things back there. You're talking about why we're having problems at set pieces. Koulibaly comes in and he commands the back line, not Eric Dyer, right? Yeah. He can play on the left if we need him to play on the left. He can play as a solid. I think he's probably better in a back three in the center. He is not exactly the quickest guy, so maybe out on the left you're worried, but he can play there, no problem. I mean, he's exactly the kind of player I think we need at the back, in the back line for us, and we didn't seem to even.
I mean, this is the thing. When I hear all window, I hear things like, "There's no centre backs out there that Conte wanted." You're not telling me, you're not telling me that Paratici goes, "What about Koulibaly?" That he's going to go, "Nah, he doesn't fit into my style of play." What about Botman? Nah, doesn't. Right, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. Just quickly.
Hey, but there's this 17-year-old kid at Blackburn.
Oh, right, yeah. It does my head in. Just before we go back to that conversation, we'll look at. Are you guys okay for time? Just by the way, I know I said 10 minutes. Are you okay?
Oh, yeah, I got nothing. I'm free all day. I could talk to you till.
Mate, I could talk. Listen, if I was single and not about to get married in 5 weeks, I could talk football. I do 24-hour live streams. I'd never come off, but she'll kill me.
No, I'm out of town. I'm alone, so I'm good.
Oh, good. It's on loan. Oh, God. I'm in loan into the front room. She's in the back room at the moment, so we're all good. We're all good. Ishmael Turner has said we can also bring 2 players and be better than Chelsea. Ishmael Turner, the difference is we don't do that. This is the problem. I fully agree with you. If Spurs went out and bought in that Milenkovic-Savic type and a top centre-half or a top right wing-back, I'd turn around and go, no reason why we can't even finish second, right? But we're not doing that, are we? We're not buying that type of player, Ishmael Turner. And the difference is Chelsea right now are currently in Barcelona talking about bringing Aubameyang home. They're currently...
possibly De Jong as well, isn't it?
Right. And Fofana's been left out the Leicester City squad today. When those things start happening, we know. Now, the difference is the De Jong one, as you said there, Scott, the De Jong one's funny for me because I think whoever takes De Jong is almost going to have to go, right, we're going to give you 75 million. Plus, we're going to give the 17 million pound in wages that De Jong is owed to him. Can you imagine Daniel Levy? Can you imagine going, right, Paratici going, Daniel, hear me out, Daniel. I need 75 million, right, for the player. Hear me out, Daniel. And I also need 15 million to pay him in wages. And then I'm probably going to need another 8 million, Daniel, for agents. So just the 100. I just can't see it.
It was quite recent. We had that really, and if you like, damning statistic, although it was used as a bit of bragging about our wages in relation to our total expenditure, or was it our revenue incoming? It was basically we pay out as a percentage less wages than anybody else in the division in comparison to the money we're paying out as a whole. And I just thought, and people were going, oh, that's how well run we are by Daniel Levy. He's got such a rein on the wages. Yeah. This is why we end up with such average players. Pay peanuts, expect monkeys.
No, we don't want to do leads. We don't want to do leads.
Oh, don't. Just a few comments from the chat. Luan has said we could add Casemiro to that list. Agreed. For me, I think if you're sticking Casemiro in alongside Basuma, now that is a two where you go, no one's going to want to play that two. That will be a nightmare all game, every game. Paul Pablo has said, can you explain why we can't beat Chelsea and Woolwich have no problem pre-season putting 4 past them? I think the key 2 words in that sentence are pre-season for me, because I think we were shocking pre-season, but we've just got 7 out of 9 points. Daryl has said we can all relax, watch Arsenal win 3-0. Now, of course, I said earlier in the show we'll be top for 24 hours, but I forgot Arsenal are playing in 20 minutes. And if they beat Bournemouth away, if they beat Bournemouth, they go top. Peter, I don't understand your question. So where are they going, to us or Chelsea? Who are you? I don't understand.
Is that maybe the argument that, players won't come to us, they'll choose Chelsea, so we can just give a pass to the people who have created that situation for us?
My question, let's talk about that then. My question is then, why? If we are as well run as everyone said, and we've got the manager everyone says, and the stadium and the Champions League, why now? I know your answers. I know your one. Give me one word answer, guys. Right? Why now can we not compete with Chelsea for players? Scott, give me one word.
Levy.
Okay.
I've got no different answer to that.
I was going to go with wages.
Yeah. It's the same thing. I guess. We're not paying the wages because of Levy. It's not because we can afford the wages, right? Like with how big our club is, with the money we bring in, we can afford them. So I don't know. The argument that we can't compete with Chelsea because we're not as appealing kind of makes me laugh, because the reason we're not as appealing is because Levy and in part Perisic then haven't created an environment that people want to come to. Like, it's not like Chelsea's more appealing because they're in a better city. They're not more appealing because they have a better stadium. They're not more appealing because I don't like they have nicer fans or anything, right? The only reason they're more appealing is because their owners are ambitious and make things to make the club win. So if your argument is, we can't blame Perisic or Levy for bringing in players, well, they're the ones who create the environment that players don't want to come to. So.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't have a problem if we'd stuck with the likes of Pochettino and we go around Europe and we pick up the best young talent there is from everywhere and getting a squad of like 15, 16 players, the greatest, the Ajax style. Just bring the greatest youth talent around and mold it into a team. Even if it takes 2 or 3 years, I'll be okay with that. I'd also be okay if we had Mourinho in and we go out and buy ready-made players who are at the peak of their game and cost a lot of money and a lot of wages. I'd be okay with that too. But we go somewhere in between and try and get the budget version of the top players. Also then the young players who aren't ready to go in the team yet, but for the future, bit cheaper. It's always taking the eye off the goal in the search of just making a few extra quid on each player. Or saving money on wages. And that's why we never get anywhere.
I can't believe talking about getting anywhere. I can't believe in the last hour, not one of the 132 people can subscribe to me unless they all have. I just fail to believe they have. You telling me I can't get 5 subscribers, people in the chat? 5 subscribers. Come on, guys. So again, but Peter Simons, what I don't understand about you is, Peter, you seem to think, you keep talking to me about how we're going to win the league really soon. Your words, not mine. You told me by the end of next season, we would have won a league. Now, that's cool. I'm great with that. Happy for Spurs to win a league. That would make my life if we won a league. But then you tell me we haven't got the status and we won nothing and we don't pay the wages, so can't bring in the top players. So I'd love to hear from you, Peter. Feel free to come on or in the chat and tell me why then, if we can't do any of the things you're saying, are we winning a league in this year or next year? I don't understand the jump. It can't be both, can it, lads? It can't be, oh, well, we don't pay the wages, therefore top players won't come. Oh, but we're going to win a league.
Yeah,
because
of course
we all know.
Of course it can. Delusion to make yourself bad. It's self-medicating. I know we're crap, and I know we're not going to sign the players, and we'll never compete, but we are doing the quad still.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, look, the quad, I put some money on the quad last night, and I've kissed goodbye to that £5. I mean, I'm seeing people saying Chelsea are up to no good and blah, blah, blah. Listen, I don't get involved in all that, right? That's not me. That's not my issue to get involved as a fan. If Chelsea are going out and buying Aubameyang, Koulibaly, De Jong, Cucurella, Fofana, listen, if their owners buy a hook or crook, and let's not pretend that Joe Lewis is squeaky clean. Let's not be those people. Where does Joe Lewis live? Where's his bank account? All the dealings when putting the stadium up and where all the money was kept and the offshore account. Please don't talk to me like we're squeaky clean. Guys, with that in mind, I mean, do either of you realistically see us finishing? I mean, we talked about Chelsea, but either of you realistic? I'm not even going to talk City. Do you realistically see us finishing above Liverpool off the back of two mediocre performances from Liverpool, who most would say haven't actually got going?
It's possible. It's possible. All I want to see is us improving to the point where it looks like we're going to challenge them for it. Because at the start of the season, we were having this conversation about where are we going to finish? Should we be looking to win the league? And of course, I was saying, yeah, of course we should. We should be aiming for it, of course. But we're not going to catch City. Liverpool and City, we both needed us to improve. And I made the sort of benchmark of let's aim for 90 points. It's not completely unreasonable to aim for 90 points. It'll be hell of a tough. I mean, we're going to struggle to reach that many. But if we do, and then the wheels fall off Liverpool and City, we're there. It has happened before. Liverpool have had a shocking season in recent seasons. So they ended up on, 69 points. True, they had an injury crisis. But injury crisis isn't a once in a club's history sort of thing. They happen sometimes.
Right.
It could happen to City. There could be something off the pitch that happens. They could end up getting docked huge amount of points or thrown out of the league for, corruption or something. We just don't know what's going to happen. So keep yourselves in the running, but grab as many points as you can and turn around these results from last season, like we've been doing. 7 points out of games we lost last season so far. And
2 points down on the season.
Yeah. 2 points down on the season. Bring back Nuno.
Bring back Nuno. Don't forget my campaign, everybody, to bring back Nuno.
But anyway, if we do all of that, then we put ourselves in with a chance. It is then up to Liverpool if they're going to screw up or not. And so far, it's not looking great for them, is it? But they do have that depth and strength at the back, don't they? That's where their real strength comes from. It's that the goalkeeper, the central defence, and their wing backs are it's the sort of driving force of the team for me.
Yeah. Just before I come to you, Scott, Paul Pablo, you said, Savva, you might not be interested in finances of Chelsea, but you're asking questions why we can't compete. But the thing is, clubs will go and put big money bids down regardless, my friend. And there's nothing stopping Spurs going to do the same thing. If we had that ambition, we could go and put down £40 million bids for Koulibaly. We could go and offer 60 million for Milenkovic-Savic. There's nothing stopping that, my friend. So we can say, oh, Chelsea's dodgy dealings, but their new owners have just passed the Premier League owners test, right? So at the end of the day, if they want to act like a big club, who are we to belittle that? I've heard it for 2 decades now. It's always, it's oil money, or this club's doing this, or these dodgy dealings. There's always a reason why, for some reason, our owners can't step up to the plate and go, bang.
And just to be clear, is the argument that we didn't sign Koulibaly because of the supposed dodgy dealings behind Chelsea? Like, is that why we didn't sign him? We've spent 20 or 15 million on Spence and 20 million on Udogie because of oil money at other clubs, that rather than spend that money on getting players that we need in. We can't get a right wing back because of oil money. Like that's you know what I mean? Like, that's the issue. If we had bought the players we need and even used the money that we've already spent, right, to bring in players. So the money's there because we spent it to bring in the players we need. And then we lose to City, who has oil money. It would be a lot easier to stomach that argument, right? But there's no oil money that stopped us from buying a center back that's better than Eric Dyer. There's no oil money that stopped us from buying a right wing back that's better than Emerson Royale. That's not oil money. So I know people often like to bring up the oil money boogeyman, and it is right. There is an issue of oil money in here making it tougher, but oil money has not stopped us from buying players that we need. That's not happened at all.
Agreed. Paul, listen, I think we've all seen articles this week about this whole scam with Chelsea and whatever. But again, as Scott just explained, that hasn't stopped us doing what we need to do to improve. You know, why would we need oil money to buy Milenkovic-Savic or Koulibaly? You know, you don't need it. We've got very, very rich owners. I think the thing that baffles me, guys, is so many of our fans, right? I feel like they're in a juxtaposition, which is a lovely word, in their head, right? I truly believe they're having their own internal argument in their head where it's, I must stick up for Spurs and Levy, and I must be loyal because Tottenham are my club and I can't say anything bad, right? Then, on this hand, it's excuses. And what I mean by that is they'll tell you that we're this big club. They'll tell you that Daniel Levy's done an amazing job. They'll tell you that the stadium only benefits Spurs moving forward in transfers and stuff. But then when you actually suggest, okay, spend it then. Oh, well, we can't because of, we're going to use this COVID line for the next 20 years. Oh, we can't because of Chelsea's oil money. We can't because, listen, Nottingham Forest have just chucked down £150 million. I'm sorry, if Nottingham Forest can chuck down £150 million, there is nothing stopping Daniel Levy, Joe Lewis, whoever you want to talk about, going, there's another £100 million, Conte, go and buy 3 top players. Sorry guys, I don't buy it. You can't have it both ways, can you, Kuva?
Yeah, exactly. It's by choice. It's not by constraint. We are one of the richest clubs in the world. We are. It's no good just saying, oh, it's only City and Chelsea and now Newcastle with the money. Liverpool haven't got oil-rich owners. They got the same sort of deal we've got. We got backers with a lot of money. It's a question of, do they want to spend it or not? Liverpool are trying to make money off it. Their owners are trying to make money off the club. They're doing it right because they will actually invest when it brings the team success.
Right. So, Kuva, do you want to answer this question then? Because this is exactly what you're talking about now. So, Peter Simon saying Liverpool don't pay top dollar in wages but manage to be competitive. Kuva, how did they do this?
For a start, they bring in football people to run the football side of it. That'll do.
Yeah.
That'll do. So you don't have businessmen making footballing decisions based on purely on money. They bring in the right people. They bring in someone like Klopp, and they just chuck the money in when Klopp needs them to chuck the money in. When they were struggling to make that final step, they go out and get Alisson. They go out and get Virgil van Dijk. When we're in a position with the likes of Pochettino to make the final step, we stop spending.
Just quickly, I'm going to have a field day with this one. Chris Darch. I don't know who you are, but welcome. Hello. Have you had a nice day? Are you doing anything nice tonight? And you sound a bit stressed, my friend. Are you okay? Savva, spelt wrong, talks soot. That's how I read that. Savva talks soot. Did we lose today? Sorry, no, hang on. Let me read it how he's written it because this guy's clearly very illiterate. Savva talks soot. Did we lose today? Are we bottom of the league? So I think what you were trying to do there was spell my name right with a V. I think you wanted a comma after Savva talks soot or maybe a full stop. did we lose today? There should have been a question mark. And are we bottom of the league? Should have been a question mark. Not sure I ever said we would lose today. And Kuva will back me up. It was on my show yesterday. I said we would win. Not sure what the problem is there. And are we bottom of the league? Not sure I've ever said we should be bottom of the league. Chris Darch, man up. I'm going to put the link in the chat. Come on and talk to me. I'm sick of trolls like you. I'm here, human being, right now. Come in, man up. Here's the. Sorry, guys, I have to do this now. It's the only way I can call out trolls. Come on, come into the show. Tell me how Savva talks soot. I'd love to know. Sorry, as you were, Kuva. Liverpool, Van Dijk and Alisson for a start.
Yeah, if you want to get somewhere as a football club, make the correct footballing decisions. If you haven't got the expertise to find the right people to run the club for you, then find somebody else to make those decisions. The likes of Ajax do it. They have ex-players as the committee to appoint managers. You get consistency going in there. You get footballing decisions made by people that know the history of the club, the traditions of the club, and have a good understanding of the way forward and the way things run. We seem to have assembled a backroom staff that were more businessmen than they were sportsmen. And it shows where all of our decisions seem to be based on the financial aspect. Great for building a ground, great for getting all the off-field commercial activities going. Superb. Can't fault him for that. The ground is fantastic. Love all that. Good job, Levy, on all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But we are a football club, and that has been lost somewhere along the lines. And at Liverpool, they haven't lost sight of that. That is the one thing they do that we don't. The focus is on get things right on the pitch.
Absolutely.
Because that is where that's what he judged on if you're a football club.
But as well, one of the things we were talking about yesterday, Kuva, like lots of people kept saying to me, and again, the show I watched you on the other night, there was one particular guest on there who was saying, "Oh, it's great. Well, look how we've strengthened the bench." And I look at Liverpool and I think when Liverpool were building a team, I never ever saw Liverpool go, "Okay, well, let's buy for the bench first." Yeah, I agree with you, football for they went, "Okay, what do we need? We need a top keeper." Chris Darch, put your camera on. You're more than welcome to come on. Here he is. Fair play to you. Hello, sir. What would you like to say?
Oh, Savva, how are you doing, pal?
Oh, we're pals now. We're pals. Well, hello, how are you?
Well, maybe not if you're calling me illiterate, no.
Well, okay, sir. Well, would you like to explain your comment?
Yes. What would you like me to say? At the end of the day, I'm seeing lots of negativity from you towards today's performance and how the club's been run.
Okay. Yeah. What was my negativity towards today's performance, Chris? What did I say that was negative about today's performance?
Well, certainly saying that, the likes of, we weren't pressing from the front. That was one of the things.
But is that a negative or was that did we press from the front, Chris?
Well, I saw that we did, yes. Maybe we were watching different games.
Maybe we were. I mean, if you actually listen to what I said, this is what I love about being able to be live, right? If you listen to what I said, what I actually said when I asked the question to Kuva and Scott was, Joe Cole actually said at half time that Spurs were struggling because we weren't pressing from the front. And I agreed with Joe Cole. And I think a lot of people were saying we didn't press from the front. So what I don't understand, Chris, is you're a grown man. If you see that as a negative rather than a piece of analytics, I don't understand.
Well, what I see as a negative, Savva, is you're constantly putting down the club. You're constantly putting down, the same as Brian Daigle.
Yep. What do we put down about the club? Tell me what I put down that isn't justified after 40 years of not getting a lot back.
Well, I don't think Enoch, and Joe Lewis have been in charge of Tottenham for over 40 years. It's only been 20, just over 20.
Okay, let me narrow that question down then. What am I negative about the club that for the last 22 years, we have paid a lot of money and got not a lot back.
Who's we, the fans?
Who's we? People who pay. Me, the fans, you, whoever goes. We deserve a lot. What have I said that's not true about them? We have paid a lot of money and got not a lot back. Listen, I'm happy to have this debate, Chris, but you need to tell me, what have I said? The thing is, what people don't like is they don't like truth. They think truth is negativity. I only ever state facts. Spurs have 1 trophy in 22 years. That's a fact. Spurs charge, I think, the second highest ticket prices in world football. That's a fact. What do I say that's negative?
What also is a fact is we're top of the table after 3 games. You know, is that not a fact?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me ask you, where were we after 3 games last season, Chris?
Okay, we were top of the league. Yes.
Right. So you see, the difference is you get fans that can't.
We had a manager that didn't have a clue what he was doing. And that was corrected.
Okay. So Chris. So I don't understand that. So because we're top now, what does that mean? That everything else at the club is amazing? That there can't be any.
No. It means that we're working towards a solution. It means that we're narrowing the gap on the other teams that. The likes of Man City and Liverpool, who are obviously a lot.
How are we narrowing the gap with City?
Because after, were we not the only team to take points off both those teams last year?
But that's not what you just said. That's a completely different argument, Chris. I love it when people do this. You've just told me we've narrowed the gap with City. How?
Yes, we have. Yes.
Okay. How? How? We were 23 points away from them last year.
We've got a stronger squad than we did last year. So.
Okay. So you're coming in and telling me we're top of the league after 3 games, which I truly believe I have said, and Scott and Coover will back me up on this. I said 7 points from 9. Great. We're top of the league. Brilliant. Happy days. Right. I've called out the club because we never go and push that next extra bit, which is true. We never do. I've called out the club for 1 trophy in 22 years, which is a fact. I've called out the club for the most expensive.
The win isn't over yet, so you don't know that the club haven't pushed out the boat. You don't know what's going on in the background.
Chris, how long you supported Spurs?
Since I was 5. I'm now 48, so 43 years.
Okay, so I've supported them 40 years. So let's talk about this then. So I get this all the time thrown at me. I get, you don't know what's going to happen in the transfer window in the next few days. You still there, Chris? Are you there, Chris? You still there? Chris, can you hear me? Or do I need to end this? Can you hear me? You've gone on mute. See, look, I'll tell you what, guys, anyone in the chat, I will always, if anyone comes into my comments and personally attacks me and isn't mature enough to actually ask a question or debate, I will always invite them onto my show, right? But don't come into my comments, start saying Savva talk shit, start saying really silly things, and then not be able to back it up, right? So, Chris, if you want to unmute yourself, I'll give you another 5 seconds. If you don't want to, then cool. I'll let you go.
Just while he sorts it out, Savva, I'll try to help him out a bit or something. I think what we've really one of the issues we've had, and it happens more in the YouTube community, and it might just be because that's the main place I talk Spurs, but the idea of people are negative, people talk shit all the time. I don't think people really understand what negative is. Again, we go over it all the time, right? You can say, like, basically, I think what Chris is saying is, you know what, Savva, I don't agree with everything you say. And if he came on and says that, that's fine. Because everything he brought up was opinion. So again, you talk negative. This is what I always come back to. Spurs have finished 7th, 6th, and 4th the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. They haven't been, if this was City and we're saying, oh man, we only drew the game today, then you could say that's a pretty negative approach, right? I mean, this is a City team that's shown. But we're talking about concerns about a Spurs team that have repeatedly shown in the past that they have issues. We're not complaining because we only won 5-0 and we want to win 10-0 every game. We're talking about a 1-0 slim victory against Wolves, where even I would say the positive people are going to agree that we played poorly, right? That's what happens. Most of the time when you will say this, oh, you're so negative. And I'll say, well, we didn't play well today, did we? Well, no, we didn't. But in the future, we might. And it's kind of, you know what, like how many times when you are called negative and you ask why we're negative, do the people come back to you and kind of agree that, okay, well, you're right. Like, you know what I mean? You're negative because you didn't say this is a great game.
Scott, this is the thing. When I ask people and say, cool, tell me what I said that's negative, you get, I mean, what was his thing there? His first point, you think of, if I invited you onto a show, Scott, because me and you didn't like me, clearly from the comments, you didn't like me and you were chatting shit about me. And I invite you on and I'm giving you this platform to go, right, tell me I'm wrong. And your first point is, well, you said that Spurs didn't press from the front. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've already won the debate at that point, right? Right. And the thing is, I did it the other day when, sorry, I just feel it's really important that I want to give people that opportunity to come on and tell me why I'm negative. But I genuinely don't think I've said anything in this show that's been negative. And that mantra follows me around because I don't think we're going to win a league. I mean, we literally just had this conversation, Scott, 10 minutes ago, that I think we're going to finish fourth. Would it surprise me if we finish third? No. Equally, if we finish fifth, it wouldn't surprise me. But apparently now, fourth and third is negative. I just don't understand. Kuva, what do you make of it all, mate? What was that guy trying to tell me?
To be honest, mate, I'm not talking to you. Way too negative still.
Jesus.
I don't know. All I can assume is perhaps he's seen little bits of the game. I mean, there's times when, you get the token bit of pressing from, like, say, Harry Kane will run and close down the goalkeeper or something like that. Perhaps there's a bit of misreading that as that we're pressing high up. I don't want to be too harsh on people seeing things and having their own take on it, but I have to disagree that you're being negative about things, Savva, because if anything, it's a positive outlook. We're just expecting more from the team than we get, more from the management, the owners, we should say. We should demand more. I think it's right to. We're a club with great history, great traditions, littered with trophies throughout our history until recently. And that is something that does need to be addressed. We are well overdue putting trophies in the cabinets.
Absolutely.
And it's made us a laughing stock with our rivals. And quite rightly, because we are the club that don't win things. We've got to change this. So if we're not even prepared to say this isn't good enough, we need to do better, we're always going to be stuck like it. I demand more from this club.
Do you know what? Just quickly, first of all, has anyone just seen Arsenal taking the lead in 4 minutes?
That's why I was shaking my head.
If anyone's seen it, Gabriel Jesus take a bow. That was a wonderful bit of running. Look, first, Kuva, listen, I agree with you. I don't want to be too harsh on people, but at the end of the day, like Scott said, if that guy said to me, Savva, can I come on? I disagree with you. But to put in the chat, Savva talks shit, blah, blah. It's like, well, okay. Well, come on, I've given you the opportunity. This is now your time to tell me. Paul Pablo, look, at the end of the day, mate, I don't take things too seriously. What I do, that what a lot of other YouTube channels won't do, is I say, okay, cool. There you go. You've mugged me off. Come on, come and tell me. So when people say things in the chat, what I hate is that gets put onto other channels. So I've been in channels like I was the other night, Kuva, when you were on, and I was in the chat, people going, oh, here's negative Savva. And then I said to people in that chat, all right, ask me a question. I said, oh, where do you think we'll finish? I said, fourth, possibly third. It's like, oh. It's like, yeah, you've got nowhere to go from that, have you? Because it's not actually negative. Let's go back to football for a few minutes. The Arsenal 1-0 up, unfortunately. Last thing I want to discuss today, I want to talk about...
Is this another last 10 minutes?
Yeah, a lot. 4 minutes. I've got 4 minutes. I want to talk about this.
That's cool. That's cool.
I had loads of shit to do today as well. I've got a friend's birthday tonight. and that's doubling up as watching the Usyk Joshua fight. Let's have a look. I wanted to talk about managers getting the sack. Slightly moving away just from Tottenham at the moment. I mean, Gerrard and Lampard. How much trouble are these two guys in? Gerrard spent a bit of money, right?
Yeah, I think Gerrard especially. That Aston Villa owner, he looks like he cares, right? I think he wanted to spend in the past. He said, look, we're going to give the money for people to do what they want to do. And that's positive in the sense that he's kind of letting the football people do what they want. And so then I think, you give Gerrard the chance. But then if you see that you do that and you're not getting results, how long do you just stand there and look at it and not take action? Now, Everton, I don't know about Lampard. I think that they should be more concerned because I think Everton's in a much, much worse position. I mean, Villa hasn't looked good this year, but I don't have any concerns about them going down. I think they have the quality. They might have a much worse season than they wanted, but I don't think they're going down. But if you're Everton, you have to really be concerned about whether you're going to be able to stay up at this point. And after but they've already changed the manager how many times? Like, how long ago was Ancelotti there? Then you went to Rafa, and now you're going to Lampard. And if you're changing it again, like, even though I think Lampard's a terrible fit, and I think the real mistake they made was going to Lampard last year. But if you're looking at your fourth manager in like less than 2 years, I mean, how long is it till you're changing too much? And even if you bring in a quality manager, they're going to struggle.
It's probably more like 4 in a year, Scott.
Yeah, like
it's madness, isn't it? So, Kuva, do you see the first manager being sacked, Lampard, Gerrard? Do you think? I mean, look, we're talking about Rodgers as well. Who, for me, I mean, it's a bit harsh when you haven't been given a single signing in the summer, right?
Yeah, I think Rodgers he's grown stale at the club anyway. I think he's kind of looks like he needs to move on. Yeah. Lampard is an interesting one because I don't think he's done too much wrong there. I actually think that he may turn out to be a fairly talented manager over time, but at Everton, it's an absolute disaster, that place. Yeah, they wreck the club. The finances are atrocious. They, could be looking at January. They might have to sell even more players. They're in terrible state. So I think Everton are in danger of going down regardless of who takes over. The only chance they got is possibly the sort of manager that's gets lambasted at the moment. It would be somebody like a Ten Hag or a Pochettino, because it's going to have to be somebody who's going to be able to use youth, because they're going to have to sell a lot of the senior players, balance the books. They're going to need somebody who can get the most out of the 17 to 23-year-olds that are bursting through the academy. Lampard, is he the one to do that? Possibly. Did a good job with Mount.
I mean, when you look, Kuva, today, their front three they started with was, hang on, are they going to score again? They're 2-0 up. Arsenal are 2-0 up in 10 minutes. I'll tell you what, Odegaard's got a brace. I'm not just being knee-jerk, but every time I've watched them this year, they play some lovely football. Sorry to say it. I know people hate it. They're playing some lovely football. They started with a front three, Kuva, of McNeil, Anthony Gordon, and Damari Gray. I mean, that's worrying times. I know Calvert-Lewin's out, but even then, is Calvert-Lewin this great striker that everyone wants to think he is? I'd be really worried. Really worried.
Yeah, he's an old school traditional centre forward, isn't he? There's no build-up play with Calvert-Lewin, so it's got to come from elsewhere in the team if you're using him, and they will have to use him. By the time he's fit to go, if he is fit this season, they're going to be desperate for him to come in and score 15 goals. They'll need it. Can Lampard really do anything about this at the moment? No, I just don't think anybody can. I think they have orchestrated their own downfall. I think they're going down this season.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a tough season for them. I mean, just quickly, Kuva, on that. I mean, look, Gerrard, for me, I thought was very, very. Look, they took a punt on him, right? He did well in Rangers, and no disrespect. I mean, let's be fair. If I look at the league table in 2 weeks' time in Scotland, Rangers and Celtic will probably already be 6 or 7 points ahead of everyone else, right? After about 6 games. That's the way it is out there. It's always going to be that way. With that in mind, he's had some money. Since he's been there, he's bought in Luca Digne. He's bought in, who else they signed that window? They bought in Coutinho. They've bought in Boubacar Kamara. They've bought in, who's the centre-back they've bought in? That's just got injured.
Diego Carlos.
Yeah. I'm sure they've bought in 6 or 7 since he's been there. He's spent quite a bit. They just don't really, I don't know. There's something about them. They look really easy to play against, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, there's players that even before Gerrard, isn't it? I'm trying to think when Leon Bailey and Buendia, when did they sign? Was that when Gerrard was there?
Yeah, Buendia was with the Grealish money, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah. So they bought what looked like fairly good signings to me. There were certainly people. I think Bob Spur was even putting them on for a sort of top 6, dark horse shout for this season. But they're just not gelling together very well, are they? It's just like sometimes you need that. Sometimes even a lesser player to hold things together. Even the likes of Leicester when they had crap like Robbie Savage there, terrible footballer, but he did that job of just all that donkey work and all that dirty, crappy work that nobody else would do, and it was keeping them in the division. Are Villa that bad? I don't think so.
Really? I mean, they got a 33% win rate out of him last year. They've lost 2 of their 3 already this year. I mean, it's not, as far as I remember, they lost today to Palace 3-1. They lost the opening day of the season to Bournemouth. I mean, Kuva, isn't it? Are they that bad? I mean, and they beat Everton. I mean,
it's like these players that came in, they all look good on paper. They've all got something to offer, but it's just not coming together. So,
yeah.
Is that down entirely to the manager? You'd have to say no. Would a good manager get more out of them? You'd have to say yes. Mm-hmm. Let's face it, Steven Gerrard is still a rookie when it comes to management.
I agree. Lucky to get the job.
Yeah, absolutely. So, did phenomenally well at Rangers, but that's a different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Yeah, I was looking over their squad to try to find out, like, okay, where are they missing? And you look at it, and they seem, I mean, it's not City, Chelsea, or even ours, like, you know what I mean? But it looks like a solid squad, and I think I agree with Kuva when you say, like, they're just kind of missing something, and we're not necessarily sure what it is, but I think that might be a bit of an indictment on Gerrard, right? Isn't it kind of up to him to find that? Isn't that what you would hope, that the manager, he would be the one to find what it is that they need? Because, I mean, Mings, Carlos, Konza, that's decent. That's Matty Cash. I mean,
even if you could say they're missing leadership or something, but you think, well, Mings looks like he should be up for that sort of job. You got McGann as well, who I think is a great player, who's definitely got that leadership quality to him.
And he's got a little bit of skill in the midfield, and
everything's there. It just doesn't work. It's strange.
Do you know what? The thing for me is in that season where Villa were good, the season that got Grealish's move. And big up to Tottenham on tour in the house. Peter Simons, I'm not saying Palace are a bad team, but let's be fair. If you're a Villa fan and you see your first 3 games is Everton, Bournemouth, and Palace, and someone's going to say, right, we're losing 2 of those 3, I'm worried. The Villa team that played well that year, Kuva, it was very much with the wings. You had Grealish down the left, and I think it was, I want to say, El Hamadi down the right, maybe at the time, and they looked like they were dangerous. They played some good football. Gerrard seems to desperately be trying to get Buendia and Coutinho into the team whilst losing that width. He seems to want to get both of them in the team, plus both Watkins and Ings. And I don't know whether or not, is he that manager yet that can drop a player and go, right, you don't fit into my system? I don't know. Is that something that, has he got the experience? You said he's a rookie.
Yeah, I mean that is what a great manager is all about, isn't it? You have to make these hard decisions sometimes, and sometimes you even have to drop the club's record signing or the talisman even just to get everything else to work. Look at the state Man United are in. You'd argue that perhaps at some point manager might have to think, I've got to drop Ronaldo. I've got to get the team gelling together as a unit, and we can't have any sort of mavericks. Is that happening at Villa? Possibly. Is it just they've bought the wrong blend of players? You can have good players, but if you're not quite fitting into the jigsaw properly, it's not going to work. I think some players perhaps need a bit more time as well. Ollie Watkins, I think he's a great little player. Is he going to score 25 goals? No.
I think he'll get you 10, won't he? Get you 11, maybe at a push.
I certainly hope so. I've got him in my fantasy team.
Was he one of the strikers where you had like X amount left at the end and you were like, who's the best of a bad bunch for 6 million?
I got a good defence in and a good midfield, and I thought I'm going to have just, value for money strikers. So I got like, value. I say value for money. Jesus, Tony, and Ollie Watson.
Okay, interesting.
They're doing all right.
So last question, and we are going. We are going. I've got to be somewhere at like 6. That's not happening. The Arsenal, them lot down the road. Looks like they're about to go 3 for 3. Their fixtures look quite kind to them. And obviously when people have kind fixtures, that also means that at some point you're going to have that tough run. So we'll take that into account. But should we be worried about them as a 4th place challenger? Because I feel like a lot of people are dismissing them. But they've come out at the start of this season. They're playing some nice football. They've got a forward in that, again, we'll caveat. I know I can see Kuva's mind ticking already. We'll caveat with, well, what if something happens to him? But could it be that they're 4th place this year? I mean, could they get into the top 4? I know we want to just say no because it's Arsenal, but realistically, I'm just asking, guys. Scott, what you take that one first?
Yeah, I mean, I hope I'm not dismissing them like you just said. I think if we play to a level that we expect that we can play, that they aren't a threat to that. I don't think they can match us if we're doing well. But if we do drop off, if we do start struggling and seeing that the performances that we are playing don't, then yes, they could. But I do think that they need other teams to falter for them to kind of step up, if that makes sense, right? And that I do think that they are.
By no means, Scott, am I saying they're nailed on? By no means.
No, I don't think so.
Right? I'm just asking the
but
question.
I do think that there's a step below us and Chelsea, for example. I think that there's a step below, and that so I think even if they play their best and Chelsea and us play our best, they can't catch us, if that makes sense. But like you said, if we start to stumble, if Chelsea doesn't get that striker that they need, and they're still trying to play with Sterling as their main striker, then sure, there's a place. I still have a lot of questions about them, but it's just like we've said, we can't say in one sentence, hey, it's great that we've got these points while playing poorly and we got these points in the bag, and pretend that it isn't important for Arsenal to get 3 wins out of 3 if it looks like they do this, right?
Yeah.
It goes both ways. If they get 9 points, even if it's against weak teams, that's 9 points for 9. And that's important, and that gets you there at the end, right? And last year, that's what we saw. We were 3 for 3 to start the season. I think they were 0 for 9 to start the season, right? They lost their first 3 games, and at the end, we beat them by 2. So points in the bag is important, and it matters, even if it's against weak teams. And you can't discount that. But I do think they're going to need a little bit more help if they are going to try to challenge.
Agreed. I mean, Kuva, I think the thing for me is I see outside of, if you take the top 4, let's assume the top 4 is going to be what it was last year, and in no particular order, and then Arsenal. I look outside of that, and I just feel there's going to be enough wins for Arsenal against those poorer teams that will keep them in contention. I'm not saying they're a great team, and we can all sit here now and go, oh, well, Bournemouth are crap. They beat Leicester. Oh, they're crap. They beat things. It's like, well, hang on. If we beat those teams, we'd be over the moon. So I just see that there's enough games that they're going to be up there. I'm not saying they're better than us in any way, shape, or form, but I do feel a lot of people are automatically going, oh, Arsenal are crap. I don't think they are. I don't think they're a crap team at all.
I think they've bought fairly well so far. I think Jesus is possibly stepping out this season to becoming the force that he always had the potential to be. That could well happen. He may well be up there for the Golden Boot. Don't like saying that, but it's certainly there. It's showing at the moment, isn't it? Zinchenko's a good signing. I think they've got some good players already. Martinelli, before Jesus arrived, I thought Martinelli's probably their best player at the club.
He's a tricky customer, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's absolute bag of tricks. Thomas Partey, he does well in midfield for him.
Yeah.
Where they're kind of come unstuck at the moment is kind of the same way we might, and it's squad depth.
Right.
Get a few key injuries. They haven't really got a lot. That midfield of theirs, if Partey or Xhaka's out, I mean, if you're looking at the likes of Xhaka actually out of the team, who have they got? El Neni or whatever his name is.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Absolutely.
That's junk. Now, what I would say is this is how close it is, I think, battling for fourth, is if they had signed Bissouma and Perisic, we wouldn't get close to them this season.
Yeah, it's fine margins. And look, I mean, the same way we don't know what Spurs are going to do in the next 10 days or however long's left of the window, is there a couple of signings on the cards for Arsenal? I don't know why. I've got this horrible feeling. When I look at Arsenal now, it seems like there's a lot of harmony there. After lots of years of not, it just seems like there's a lot of harmony. Seems like Arteta's kind of found a shape that works for them. And whenever I watch them, they just like, even I'm watching them now, you can say it's Bournemouth for all you want. They're all pinging it about. The football's good. They're all working, running. None of this lethargic at the beginning stuff. And I know people in the chat will go, oh, stat padding against Bournemouth. I don't believe in all that because that's what you're meant to do against those teams, right? That's what you're meant to do. The same way we did against Southampton.
Chelsea won the league that one season without beating any of the top six, was it?
Right.
Because they just hammered everybody else. I
think Liverpool didn't beat any of the top six last year, didn't they? Or something like that? Or they had a terrible record last year again.
It was poor, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I mean, lads. It's about our Arsenal going to get enough wins against the other 50. I'm taking the top four and them out. So the other 15 Premier League clubs, are they going to get enough wins against those 15 clubs that keeps them in touch with us, with Chelsea?
Yeah,
that's my worry, and I just feel like look, you know me, guys. I don't ever get carried away. I know fans like that guy that came on and oh my god, we're top of the league. Cool, all right, cool, great. I've been here. I mean, I've seen the last two managers have us top of the league, right? Nuno had us top of the league. Jose had us top of the league. I believe at one point Poch had us top of the league. So I don't buy into that after 3 games. But my point is, a lot of people writing off Arsenal, and even last year, this is an Arsenal team we beat by 2 points that didn't have a striker. So forgive me for not being one of those fans who goes, oh, they're crap, they're in our rear view. I just keep my feet on the ground. I
think the caveat is last season we started off 10 games with Nuno. We would, if it averaged with Conte's usual 2 points, we'd have been quite well ahead of them. But I think the one that gives us the advantage over them at the moment, and this is how close it is managers. We got Conte and they got a clown.
We say they've got a clown. I'll be honest. The football they're playing here doesn't look like he's a clown. They're knocking it about really, really well. He's changed the shape this year. Listen, I'm not sitting here and bigging up Arteta at all. But it's, when we say he's a clown, are we saying that just because he's inexperienced? Why are we saying that? Because what I'm seeing here, they look very well organised. They look a team up for it. And they're absolutely playing some lovely football. I watched us today. For the first half, we looked, again, like last game against Chelsea, like a team who had never played together before. So why are we... I'm just asking you, why is he a clown? That's my question.
Have you not watched it yet?
I don't want... What are we talking about, all or nothing?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. If I watched that as well as doing my podcast and working, my missus would...
Yeah. I know what you mean. No, it's just... some of the ridiculous things he's come out with, said the motivational side of things is crazy stuff. Some of the stuff he says, I think they're kind of signing the right players in spite of what's going on. I think when they look, it's kind of the opposite of what we're doing, where we're going for trying to fill positions, but we've not got that greater quality coming in to do it. Yeah. They're filling with quality, but they haven't addressed the positions that they need to have it in. So they've improved their attack. I'm like you, Savva. I see them scoring a bucket load of goals against the lesser teams.
I do,
and that's going to carry them through to a lot of points this season. Whereas the test for them is going to come against the big teams. And I think they are going to come unstuck there. They are going to get even Wolves, the likes of Wolves, I can see turning them over. Because Arsenal won't be getting their way through that midfield. There'll be other teams doing the same. We'll be one of them as well. They'll come to our place. We'll smash them. But it's what always happens with us against them. We'll go to their place. Not quite so easy, is it?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, look, I'm a humble fan. I don't believe, as my mate always tells me, my mate's a Man United fan, and he always says to me, look, I always now know why you've stayed humble. Now my team is in a mess. And he said, I don't believe, he said, that all the time I speak to Spurs fans, he said, they talk to me and they talk about football as though they've been a serial winning machine for the last 20 years. And that's why some of my friends, when I'm talking about football, they like talking to me about football because they know I won't just go, oh my God, Spurs are the best. We're going to batter you up, because I know deep down it's not true. But look, guys, we are going to leave it there. Look, I still do think we'll finish above them, but I think it's going to be touch and go.
Yeah, it's a close one. Nail biter.
No, I just don't trust that Partey Xhaka midfield. Like, we talked about us needing a midfielder, man.
Yeah,
I don't.
Trouble is, what this is the worry, isn't it? What if they do go out and make that extra couple of signings before the window shuts, and we don't?
Yeah. And I just wanted to clarify: Liverpool was against the top 4 teams, not top 6. Luan, kind of. That's what it was.
Just quickly, Scott, on that point where we're saying about they need a midfielder. Yeah, I'm not doubting that they need a midfielder, but the difference between us and them for the midfielders I see is they keep the ball. They're a possession-based football team that will have the ball more than they don't have it. So their midfield won't be overrun as much as ours, where we're not a possession-based team. I'm not in any way saying Xhaka and Partey are the world's best midfielders, but from what I've seen here, they literally sit there, pick it off to the others who just keep the ball. And ours, it comes back at us a lot, and I feel we're overrun. But look,
I think that works against the smaller teams. But I think to Kuva's points, when you're playing the Cities, the Liverpools, the Chelseas,
for sure,
I think that's where you're going to really run into trouble, because they won't be able to keep the ball against those, and then they will.
Oh, for sure.
But I think you do make a point against the Bournemouths and the teams in the bottom half, especially. It'll be good enough that where they will be able to control that ball to limit the amount of work that they have to do.
Yeah, I think the likes of Newcastle is going to have a major say on what happens in the European places as well.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, when I look at it outside of those top 5, I think West Ham are going to have a season of struggle. I think not enough's changed there. They've burnt into the ground last year the same sort of 15, 16 players across a Europa League season and a Premier League season. Man United, we don't even need to go into. The only other team I can see it is Newcastle, right? I mean, even then we don't know. It's early days, but can we see anyone else breaching that top 5?
No, I'm not talking about Newcastle themselves necessarily making the top 5, but I see them beating some of the big clubs, and it's going to affect the race for positions. Mm-hmm. It could be the turning point. It's like we did well against Newcastle last season, whereas the Gooners, as we know, they got smashed when it mattered. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of thing that turns a season around.
Yeah.
It might be too reactive to the start, but I do think, like, watching how West Ham United would have been the teams I would have thought had that, and they look so. I mean, West Ham just looks like they play with such thin margins that they need so much to go right for them to win games, and I think we've seen that in past seasons where if things don't go right, you just drop points, and you just drop way too many points to really stay up near the top. and United is a disaster. So it's, I mean, you say that and you look at the table, or Leicester might be another team, right? You would think that's a team that can jump up, but man, they have looked so.
Yeah,
they look like they need a lot of changes, and
I'll be honest, and I do need to go on this point. I do need to go, but I just think the Premier League's not. I don't think outside the top 5 it's a strong league anymore. I think it's a lot of teams that can be picked off. But here's for another day. Listen, Kuva, thank you so much for your time from the start. Scott, you must have been with us for about 2.5 hours now, so thank you very much for that.
Oh, great!
Everyone
Thanks
in the chat.
I just said thanks for having me. And for the last 4 minutes,
I'll always have you, Scott. I'll always have you. Just text me. I'll have you all the time. Take that how you want to. Right, guys. Everyone, whatever you're doing tonight, everyone in the chat, thank you for being in here. Please like, please subscribe. Enjoy whatever you're doing. Watching football, watching Usyk. I think there's UFC tonight. You got Bob Spur is live with his show tonight, which is all full of fun and frolics and great guests. Other than that, we are out. See you later, people. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you